Call this meeting to order at 6:30, right on time. In accordance with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations signed by Governor Baker on July 16, 2022, which extended the suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the North Reading School Committee is being conducted with some remote participation. Excuse me. In addition to the in-person attendance of members of the public in the school committee, this meeting is also concurrently being presented through a Google Meet and by a live broadcast by NORCAM to allow the public and any school committee members who cannot attend in person the opportunity to participate, but we are all here in person tonight. We begin by asking if there's any public input. Anybody has anything they'd like to bring to the table? Seeing none, we move on to our student report. We have Maya Nickerson, class of 2023. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you. It's a little bit of an awkward week because it's the first week back, so there's not much going on, but we do have midterms next week. I forgot it was not last week anymore. But so that starts the 17th. We don't have school on Monday, obviously, for MLK Day. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, this next week is all half days for us. And the quarter ends on the 20th, so students are studying for their midterms right now and collecting all their work for the end of the quarter. In terms of fine arts, we have Notorious performing at Galvin Middle School on Saturday, the 21st. And they're also going to Troy, New York on February 4th to perform. And winter play auditions happened on January 3rd. For athletics, it's kind of like the end of the first month of winter sports, so I don't know if anybody's made it to the playoffs yet. I don't think that they have, but I know that a good handful of our track athletes have qualified for nationals, which will be held at the New Balance Stadium in Boston in March, so that's going to be cool. There's a big track meet tomorrow, too, against Pentucket. And girls hockey won 3-0 in their game last night. And just all the sports teams all have games going on, and so all the tickets are offered online. Otherwise, we have the high school open house for middle schoolers on the 11th, this Wednesday. And our eco team started this clothing swap. So we're going to have a thing where you can bring in your used clothes and you can swap them out for new ones. So that's pretty cool. And
I'm sorry, is that a fundraiser?
I don't think so. I think it's just kind of like a eco-friendly way to get new clothes, yeah. And Charles E. Jones nominations were, the form was released to be able to nominate for that. And then for my student work, I'm taking art portfolio right now, it's kind of like an art studio class in a way. And so I think Dr. Daly's gonna, this is the piece that I just finished before break. And so in our portfolio, we're pretty much just given these independent studies where we have to pretty much just choose a topic and make something that goes along with it. So I chose growing from pain. So as you can see, it's a human heart with a dagger kind of stuck down the middle with all these plants and vines growing out of it to show how you grow when you experience setbacks like that. And I also put some passages from different books that I like to read in the background that all have themes about growing. And there's a couple quotes in there that you can't really see either, but they all have to do with growing with pain. And it was just cool because in our portfolio, you kind of just can use all the materials that you have, and it's not restricted to a certain topic or a certain skill. So it's just kind of your own exploration of art, and I really like it. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very cool. Can I ask what books?
I think I have The Awakening by Kate Chopin in there. Uglies by Scott Westerfield, I know is there. I think The Program by Suzanne Young, I want to say. And I can't remember. I know that there's at least one or two more, but I can't remember the other ones. But
Very cool.
That's really fantastic.
That's great.
thank you.
Awesome.
Are you an art major? Are you going to try to major in art in college?
No, but I want to do archaeology.
Okay.
So it's kind of related. And I'd like to take art classes still.
Yeah, a lot of art classes there.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Great.
I see the University of Vermont. Is that anything for next year or not?
Maybe. I got in, so
Oh,
it's an option,
congratulations.
but thank you.
It's always good to get those first off.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can go somewhere.
Good. Other questions? No, good presentation.
Thank you.
slow start to the year, but that's good, or the
Yeah.
quarter, that's good. Well, welcome, and you're welcome to stay for as long as you want, or you can take off if
Thank
you have
you.
other things to do.
I'll stay for a bit.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maya.
You're welcome.
Moving on, tonight we are going to be entertained by the high school. So, Mr. Lopret, if you would like to come up, and I think you're the first three on our agenda, so you can, dealer's choice, what you want to go with first.
So it's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak about all of the, or I should say, some of the fun things that are happening at the high school. There's a lot. And this year, we really felt it appropriate to focus on three areas specifically in a way that I think the title of our presentation tonight kind of captures a number of things that are happening. This evening's program is going to be led off with Mr. Hudson and student council representatives, specifically Annie Cooperstein. And we also have some other speakers. I'm going to let them, speak for that group specifically. Mr. Owens and the marching band is represented. Mr. Owens, unfortunately, is not with us tonight. He is sick and could not come. Unfortunately, he's sending his regrets. And Mr. Avazian is here with students from the AP Computer Science Principles class. So, I'm happy to introduce Mr. Hudson and representatives from Student Council, RISE, and our unified program.
Right. I was wondering if the Mr. Owens thing was just trying to deflect, and they're going to come up, the marching band's coming in up top or something.
I wish.
Next time.
Hello. So just quick introduction. So we have Katarina Foley over here, who is one of our co-captains of the unified basketball and bocce team. She's a senior here at the high school. And we have Annie Cooperstein, who's another senior co-captain of the unified basketball and bocce teams. And she is one of the reasons why we even have our unified sports here at the high school. I'm Jonathan Hudson. I'm a special ed teacher at the high school in BCBA, and I'm the coach of the basketball and bocce team here at the high school. So quickly, I'm going to talk about the RISE program. So the RISE program is a substantially separate program here. So in North Reading, we have one in the Hood School, the middle school, and then at the high school, and I'm the teacher in that RISE program here. Within the high school, we work on many different skills, but we primarily focus on functional skills, so functional academics such as menu math, money skills, reading, vocabulary, time telling, anything that fits the students' needs within the classroom. We also work on our life skills. We got ourselves a nice kitchen set up in our classroom so we can work on some meal prep, chores, problem solving, leisure skills, and ADLs, so activities of daily living, brushing teeth, also flossing, any type of ADL skill that they might need. Community skills, if you pop by sometime in the fall or the spring, you might see us working on our parking lot and crosswalk safety here at the high school. We also work on that when we go grocery shopping at local stores such as Market Basket. We will walk down to Ryers on when the weather's nice to work on purchasing and ordering there as well. As the kids start to get a little bit older, we start to focus a little more on our vocational skills. So we have some internal jobs here. We have, if you pop in throughout any of our lunch periods, we have kids working at the food cart, selling snacks to other students within the building. We have some kids working in the mailroom here. And then we also have some external jobs at the North Reading Food Pantry and then at the Flint Memorial Library. And if anybody out there ever has any internship opportunities for our students, please let me know, always looking. And then we're also always working on social skills. So within the classroom, we tend to work on our eye contact, conversational skills, but the goal of that is to be able to generalize that into natural settings, such as the lunchroom, within the hallways, at home, with their friends, and that kind of leads us into our next slide, where we are trying to integrate students. So like I said, we're a substantially separate classroom, but I want to get them out of our classroom as much as possible. So we have kids all of our kids take at least one inclusion class, so whether it's art, PE, piano, things like that, we try to get them included as much as possible. So within lunch, they sit in the cafeteria just as any other student would. Power block, we have with student council, we have a walking club one day a week where we go for a walk after lunch. Buddies group, we get together and we play games. Sometimes we have a little dance party. And this is, again, with student council. School assemblies, at class assemblies, at the pep rally, we want our kids included. We don't want them sitting off to the corner in the back. We want them integrated with their class. If they're a junior, they're sitting with juniors. If they're seniors, they're sitting with their classmates. School dances, as you can see, we got a picture from the recent homecoming dance in November. Last year, we had students attend the junior prom. We had a handful of kids in this year's musical in Pippin. We had a couple students do some team sports. If you see, we had a student who was on the cheerleading team and got to cheer at Gillette, which was pretty cool. And then we have our unified sports. And so what is unified sports? So what it is, it's an opportunity that joins people with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. I always have parents ask, like, well, who can be on the team? And I always say, anybody. Whether you want to come in and help out, whether you want to come in and play, whether you want to come in and just do whatever. We have students who help out by announcing during our games. We have them doing the scoreboard. So it's a really good opportunity to get as many kids together with all types of abilities as possible. It's through Special Olympics, and I think I like this quote. It was inspired by a simple principle: training together and playing together is a quick path to friendship and understanding. And I've been able to see that firsthand, the relationships that have been built, and then the understanding from within the school setting of why everybody needs to be included with what we're doing. So here at the high school, we have two unified teams. We have our basketball team and our bocce team. So for basketball, we practice once a week. The practices, in my opinion, are really the key to the program. I get to see the relationships that are built throughout practices. We usually practice for about an hour. I kind of get it going, but then the students really take it over and they just have a ton of fun. We usually have music playing. You see the social interactions. And then they're also building skills within the sport. So within basketball, working on dribbling, working on passing, working on shooting. And it's really awesome to see the improvement that certain students have made, like Katarina over here drilling shots like Steph Curry out there, right? Mm-hmm. We have usually 4 to 6 games per season. Our home games are played at North Reading High School, and then our away games are typically in surrounding area schools. We played at Triton, Danvers, Medford, Melrose, and then we have an end of the season jamboree. This past year was held at Danvers. We played 2 or 3 games. Played against a couple different teams. You play kind of quick-paced games and get it, and it's a ton of fun. You're able to recognize a bunch of schools at the same time. Unified bocce. So once basketball ends, right before Thanksgiving, we turn right to unified bocce after Thanksgiving break. Similar to basketball, we practice once a week. And again, these are where the skills are really being built, the relationships are being built. This year, I've really been able to take a back seat at the practices. I bring the bocce balls, and the kids are able to, they go and sub in and out. It's really awesome to see. It's really like a 1-to-1 ratio of students with and without disabilities. Oftentimes, we have way too many people, not too many, I don't want to say too many, but we have too much to play within a game of bocce, so we have to rotate teams. And then we have a tournament at the end of the season. Last year was held at Pembroke, which was a lovely drive in the rain. But this year, we are hosting it. So on January 28th, we'll be hosting the tournament within the school in the gym using Main Street, the DLL. It's a statewide event. Like I said, last year we drove to Pembroke. This year I know we have teams confirmed from Natick. We are hoping for like Maynard, North Andover. So there's a lot of schools coming up to play. And I'm going to turn it over to Andy.
Yeah, so for unified sports, we've actually received a lot of recognition on the state and national level. First, we've received the Sportsmanship Award, which is basically not only our team got the Sportsmanship Award, but all of North Reading did, just because we were such a great school. You can see all the support that we've had from North Reading. People have this, Patty Doherty, who is the head of Special Olympics, has told me multiple times that North Reading has one of the greatest environments for a basketball game, and she's never seen anything like it. So we really pride ourselves on that, and she loves how close our team is and how much fun we always seem to have. And then every year we've had a senior night to support the seniors on the team, just like any other normal sports team, and everyone loves that, just as they normally like a sports night. We get all of the posters, all of the flowers and whatnot. And then we've been a unified champion school for a very long time. I want to say about 10 years, but this year we were able to get recognized for the national banner, which is so the unified champion is recognized by the state, and then the national banner is recognized by the nation. That's renewed every 4 years. And for that, we were only, I think, one school out of 12 in Massachusetts to have received that. And I think one out of, 200 in the nation? 145 in the whole nation. So it's a very big achievement, and that banner is hanging in the gym next to all of the other sports banners. So I love that it's there. And to meet that standard, I listed them below. You need to have 2 unified sports a year, so that's our bocce and basketball. Practices regularly, we have them once a week always. And then Mr. Hudson was kind enough to get the training that we needed. And then our sports are recognized similarly to varsity athletics and the athletes, and we're recognized at pep rally. We're always on the loudspeaker. We're always in the paper. So we are recognized. And then we have youth leadership. We have our co-captains, Kat and I, and we have some inclusive clubs and inclusive sports, as you saw, with all with students integrated. And then we have our two whole school engagements throughout the year, which is, for example, we do polar plunge, we do our Valentine's Day cupcakes, which are coming soon, obviously, and many more events. So I love unified sports, and I'm sure that everyone in the audience does, and we definitely do have a big support for our program. So. And then this kind of jumps to Hyannis, but I can come back to it if needed. I saw that was on the agenda for later. But for a quick overview, Hyannis is the Massachusetts Association of Student Council State Conference. I was able to go during my freshman year. I loved it. You go to keynote speakers, and it is some of the best that I've ever seen. I go to these similar conferences like this every single year on the regional level, but the state one is definitely the best I've ever gone to, and it was 4 years ago. And I'm very excited to go back if given the chance. You go to a bunch of workshops, and then you also go to the polar plunge, which I talked about earlier, and that raises money for Special Olympics. So very important to our school and to Special Olympics overall. So yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over now to Katarina Foley, our senior co-captain, and she's going to talk about what unified sports has meant to her over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely, when I first started, because of Mr. Hudson here, I have definitely seen a challenge, but definitely a fun one. And I like to work with my peers in the team that I had, and I've definitely seen a lot of encouragement. Like, when I had the ball, everyone was like telling me to shoot instead of going defense. Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed seeing how much the relationships have built between everyone and of how hard everyone has worked. And it's just wonderful to see how close everyone has become.
I will say Katarina is one of the students. I was saying she's like Steph Curry, but she really is like someone who's, I've seen her grow since her freshman year or even 8th grade. But to even see her on the basketball court, like I was like, oh my God, she's like able to hit shots and she works her feet. She's doing pretty well. And then one last thing. So me as a coach, I've been a teacher for 16 years. This is my 6th year here at North Reading. And this is the unified sports is the best thing that I've been a part of. Obviously, the team itself, seeing the relationships that are built, being able to walk in the hallway and having everybody, you just walk, hey, what's up? Just like little conversations that happen throughout the day. Seeing them succeed, conquer nerves, fear. Our first game, we had students who like asking not to play, not to start, and by the end of the season or this year, I had 12 kids asking to start. One of the coolest things is seeing the school community come together. Our home crowds at basketball, no offense to the varsity basketball teams, but Dave Johnson has said that they can't pull crowds like that for their varsity. It's unbelievable. One of the parents, I won't drop her name, she's in the crowd. Our first game, she came up to me, she goes, is this really all for us? Like, it was amazing. Every fall team works their schedules around our home games to make sure that we can go. We had the JV soccer team come out to see us at Triton, so we had our own student section there. It really is, it's unreal. I've had parents come up to me, like I had one lady come up to me, say like she had a sister with Down syndrome who's, 40 years ago was in high school, and she start bursting like into tears saying like this was never around. And like I mean, I love basketball and I love these kids, and you put it together and it's just unreal. And I just hope it continues to grow. Mr. LaPrette gave a great speech at our pep rally, just talking about getting involved, and it's just great to see the whole school come together. So if you haven't caught a game, I'll make sure we'll get the schedule out next fall, and our bocce tournament, like I said, is the 28th, so feel free to come out and see us. But thank you. I think that's it, right? Yeah. Oh, Michael. Oh, we got Michael. Here we go.
You want to share, Mike, about what the basketball has meant to you, playing those games, maybe?
Yes.
Like when you've hit threes?
Yeah.
This kid, he can shoot. How did it feel when you hit those shots in front of the football team?
Very good.
That's awesome.
Well, like I can shoot the ball and pass it to, and I can get the rebound.
Nice.
And is that one of your? I mean, you love sports.
Yes.
And I mean, he plays on the hockey team too, but the basketball, I think. I'm telling you, I walk around the high school with this kid. It's like walking around with a celebrity, especially after that Triton game when you're on fire. So, do you have anything else you want to say?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you.
So comments? Dr. Daly, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just want to share, this is a great presentation. Mr. Hudson does so many great things for our students and our programs, and he's been a real great asset to the school, so I want to thank him. The students, it's so wonderful to hear you share what you've done to build this program and to develop it. It is truly incredible when you come and just see what those home crowds are like. I grew up in Melrose, and I went to the away game last year where you hit the three-pointer at the end of the game,
Iced
and
the
I think
game,
they
yeah.
never lost at home. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, because this guy's going to hit it. So, no, it's really an amazing program, and you guys have done a great job. And I love that we're hosting the bocce tournament. That's really great that we're able to do that. So.
And that's for 2 years, so we'll also be hosting next year around the same weekend, so.
Fantastic, great work.
Excellent.
Very
Excellent. Jump in.
I've seen a lot of presentations this has to be my favorite. I didn't even know about this program. I
Yeah.
think it's amazing what you're doing, and I do. I want to see it. I think it's exciting, and I'm so proud that our district does something like this, honestly.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It is recognized by the MIAA as well.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, so it's not just a side sport.
Yeah,
Yep.
Not at all, yeah.
yeah.
It is recognized as a sport in the MIAA.
And we were part of the Fall Sports Awards this year, and they all got recognized in front of all the other fall athletes, and I'm pretty sure we got the biggest ovation.
Great.
Great.
Which is pretty impressive, because the football team was about to be playing in the Super Bowl, so.
It's fantastic, thank you. I have a question. Katerina, do you play bocce as well?
Yes, I do.
Now, can someone tell me, how do you set up a bocce court indoors?
I was thinking about that.
PVC piping.
And then, is it the hard ground, or you put
No, so
AstroTurf?
they are soft bocce balls.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That was the question when we were talking about hosting it, because the gym floor, but they're soft bocce balls.
Okay.
And there's 6 courts?
Yeah.
6 courts set up with PVC piping. It was nice to go to Pembroke last year to kind of get an idea of,
They had a really big setup. They call it Olympic Town, and it's just the whole hall is just like games, face painting, like basic yard games, but it's really fun and really exciting. And I think that there are 6 schools coming to North Reading for the tournament, potentially more. I think about 17 plus teams. So.
Wow. And how did bocce, is that just because it's a,
That's like the one sport I can play, so I'm psyched.
that's what we started with too.
yeah,
Yeah, we started with that. For years before I was in high school, North Reading would go and support it as fans in the stands, which means that you go without a team and you just cheer on the other teams. But then, really, when my grade went up to high school, there was a lot of students that were interested in this program. So then I tried to figure out how to put it together, and I contacted Patty, and we organized it, put our team in, and tried that out. And then we did that for 2 years, and then just the last year we started basketball. So.
oh, great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for coming first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of this role is seeing what's being done in this district, you know, and we love seeing the maskers come in and all of that. But this, like Diana said, this is one of the best presentations. I think it's, you know, really important that everybody is included in everything. I may be sending you a bocce player next year, actually. And so, I mean, again, it means so much to all of us here. And so, you know, thank you for volunteering your time to do this. Thank you to the student athletes. And, you know, this is really what makes school a community, you know, and so it really is important. And so thank you guys. And Dr. Daly, I was talking to Dr. Daly about things I haven't gone to yet, and the unified basketball game. I didn't even know about it, and he just, like, that's the top of the list, although I think the bocce tournament on the 28th sounds like a good,
Yeah,
good
definitely.
place
I
to
think we
start.
should all go.
So,
We can.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Juliana is in this program as well, and I just kind of want to add into what everyone's saying, which is that it's not been so easy to find a way for some of these kids to be integrated into the school, and this has really worked out for them because, you know, there's been so much support. And it really has been life-changing in a way, because a parent can only do so much to get their student included in the broader community. So I really appreciate the efforts that we're making, especially the student council and the kids that take the time to kind of include these kids. So it's been awesome. Really, you could wipe a tear every game you go to. It's really so thank you.
I will say that when I was this age, I could never stand up in front of a crowd and do any of the things you're doing right now. So to me, I mean, if that is an indicator of any level of success, you're way ahead of the game. So congratulations for everything, for participating, for getting up here, for everybody who joins in, because it's phenomenal. Thank you.
I just think Mr. LaPrette made a mistake because he should have put you on last.
I know, right? I'm trying to follow that.
Now we have to turn it back to him, and so I don't know. Bar is pretty high here, so.
Should we do the trip approval perhaps as well?
Sure, let's do the triple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was
Thank
there
you,
another
guys.
Thank
slide
you.
of the trip approval?
There
or-
was a little, yeah, did you want to take, is it okay to approve, can we try to approve that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what?
Yeah, you want to just go back to that for a second?
A couple of slides back.
Thank you, thanks for your patience up there. I know we've got some other groups presenting, but this will.
Speak.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you have the info on the dates and the times, or do you want me to reference that? I can reference that for you.
Well, I know that it starts, it's the March 8th through 10th. It's a Wednesday through a Friday. Usually we leave right when we get to school, around 8:30. And then we come back. I think that everyone leaves at 10 a.m. on Friday to come back to North Reading, and then you continue your classes if there is any time for the remainder of the day. On Wednesday and Thursday, I touched upon it, but we get really amazing keynote speakers. I'm on the state board, but I don't think I'm allowed to say who the keynote speakers are, but they're really exciting this year, and I'm very excited to listen to them. So, and then we have leadership training workshops. Some are from the speakers if they have time, or they're from our own student council representatives. Patty Doherty's always there, and it's I've gained so much knowledge that I still remember from 2020, which is the last time we've had a real state conference. I've brought back many events for the school that I've thought of. Honestly, basketball was given to me there because I only thought that it was bocce at first. I didn't really know of the other ones. And then Patty kind of opened my eyes at the conference there and started talking to me about it more and more because she knew how nice the facility at North Reading was and knew that we could support it. And yeah, North Reading has a big presence on the state level. I'm sure that you know of in this photo. The girl in the red dress, that's Lizzie Barrett. She was the former NEMASC president. She was the NEMASC delegate, which is the Northeast Association of Student Council. So she was on the state board, and now I'm on it as the regional president. So North Reading has always had a very big presence there. Nesrin was on it. Nesrin Ordeal was on it a little while ago. So definitely a big place for North Reading, and it is a great leadership opportunity.
So just to clarify, so it's the 8th, 9th, and 10th, you're staying at the conference center, I assume, and
It's about, we're finalizing a number on Thursday, but it should be 15 students from North Reading.
and it's a school bus to go down?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. I can make a
Okay.
motion if you'd like.
Yeah. Any questions on it?
Yep.
Okay, you want to make a motion to
Yep.
approve?
I move that the committee vote to approve the student council overnight trip to the MASC's annual state conference in Hyannis.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second, any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Have fun.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I really thank you.
All right, I was at that conference in 2020, and it's amazing, the amount of workshops and the learning opportunities for the students and student leaders, and as Andy said, what things you come back with and what you can realize at your school.
And I heard the
Okay.
conference center is being renovated, too.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in November when we were there.
Excellent. Okay, Mr. Owens is not here, but the show must go on, as they say. And we have our marching band contingent here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to reiterate Mr. Owens sends his regards. He got sick last week and was pretty bummed to be missing this, but you have us today. So my name is Talene Tovey. I'm a senior at the high school. I've been in the marching band all 4 years. I stand in the front. I don't march, so I guess I'm a bit of a poser, but I'm pretty much like section leader.
I'm Angelina Palazzolo. I'm a senior this year, and I'm the head drum major. Drum major is like comparable to like a captain, something like that.
I'm Isabel Kim, and I'm a junior, and I'm the assistant drum major this year.
So I don't actually think a lot of people have a lot of experience with what a full marching band season is. I certainly didn't when I was going into high school. So just for a little bit of context, it is a competitive activity. So every year we do have a program that we put together. It's about 6 to 7 minutes, and it's just straight music. It revolves around a theme, maybe a story, some kind of central focus. And there's a lot of different jobs that you can have. So we have a marching wind ensemble, which is the largest group usually. We also have a color guard, so a dance troupe, and they're spinning props and throwing things. We have the front ensemble, that's what I'm in, so stationary instruments in the front, usually bigger. And then you have a marching drum line. And obviously making this possible is our staff. We have our band director, Mr. Ben Owens, our assistant band director, Mr. Daniel Muse, who is also the band director at the Batchelder. So very nice to have him at both schools. And then we have a handful of other staff that volunteer their time, some that work here, some that just come out of the goodness of their hearts. We have a lot of alumni as well who happen to stop by at rehearsals and give their input and help us out. But it's a very big production, and so we have just a huge number of people who have to come in and help us.
So our ensemble does a bunch of things here in North Reading. We rehearse every Thursday night and Saturday morning, and that's where we put together our show and make the magic happen, as they say. We perform at the high school football games with stand tunes and the halftime entertainment. And we love going to support our football team. It's really awesome to get to tag along with them where they go. Like going to Gillette Stadium was an amazing experience, and we love supporting them in whatever they do. And we participate in a lot of town events. We perform at Apple Fest, the Memorial Day Parade, Veterans Day, the tree lighting ceremony, and we love playing for our community and supporting them. And another big thing that we do is competitions. We perform at the Micah and NESBA circuits. We compete against the local groups in our division, and we get evaluated with a score and get placed with the other groups that we compete against.
So where we started, Mr. Owens joined us at the high school in 2018. Our program is relatively small. We had 24 students. We didn't necessarily have some sort of drum line or official front ensemble like Tilly was talking about. We still had the old uniforms. This year we got new uniforms. We got to display that this year. The show was relatively simple. It was Rains in Africa, and we only competed in 3 competitions and won bronze medals.
This year we had 62 total members, and we got, like she said, we got to debut our brand new uniforms, which we were so excited to have. Our theme this year was the Hive, which was the most advanced theme that we've had so far. It had more props, more difficult music, and choreography that we haven't gotten to do yet. We participated in 4 competitions, getting a silver medal at Micah, and a gold medal at NESBA, and we got to host a home show this year, which was really exciting. And we had a full front ensemble and a marching moving drum line for the first time this year, which was very exciting.
So where we're going, we had a banquet recently in the beginning of December, and we, the directors revealed what the show is going to be this year, or this season, in the fall. It's called Going Home, and it's based on America's favorite pastime, baseball. And it's revealed to have our hardest music yet so far. And in terms of how we're growing, we're actually growing so much next year. We're going to have about like 27 incoming freshmen. So in order to stay competitive in our growing division, we need to purchase a sound system, which is what we're planning to do. We're going to need a lot more buses. So we're going to need, so this year we had the van and the bus to drive to competitions, but next season we're going to be needing 2 full buses and a bunch of other trucks and stuff.
So we also do have to rent U-Hauls for each of our competitions and anywhere that we go because of that stationary equipment. It's way too big to move otherwise, and it needs to be like properly bolted in. So we use a 26-foot U-Haul. We also have some parent volunteers with pickup trucks sometimes. But next year with the sound system that we are hopefully going to purchase, as well as potentially other instruments that we're going to start using in the front ensemble, we will definitely be needing 2 U-Hauls. I don't know the sizes yet, but that is a new kind of challenge that we're going to have to work through. Is there another slide? I don't believe so. Okay, I think that's it.
Excellent. So, comments, questions?
question.
Need lots of bungee cords.
Diana?
From 2018 to today, what do you think some of the factors were to see such an increase in participation?
Sure. Definitely, Mr. Owens played a huge factor in that. He encouraged us to socialize more with each other. Before he came, we were all kind of disconnected. We didn't really know each other, but over the past few years, we've all grown to be a family, and being connected personally has to do with creating music cohesively more than you'd think. When I play with people I don't know, it's hard to connect with them, but I could say a lot of the advancement definitely has to come with kind of creating a family with everybody.
I would say, as cliche as it really is a family. It's 62 people that you're with all the time. We see each other in school every day for rehearsal, and we're rehearsing after school. And you're doing an activity that requires just so much blind trust in each other, as strange as that sounds. So you just grow really close over the season, and there's a really nice dynamic, especially between older students and younger students, where you have mentors, people to rely on when you're going into high school. And it just becomes a really nice community. So that's, I think, what the main drawing force has been for incoming 8th graders is, oh, I get to join an activity where there's people looking out for me in the hallways, and there's people that I can go to that I trust all the time, especially when you're joining a new school, which is really scary sometimes.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
You mentioned the season. What is the season? Is it the same as football season? Is it the fall? Okay.
Yeah, it's very similar to the football season. We start in August with band camp, which is a week-long, I don't know what to call it. It's a week of rehearsing all day for 5 days straight, and it's way more fun than it sounds. We have a great time, and that's where we get our show started, and that's the week before preseason for the fall start sports, and then it pretty much mirrors the football season. And our last performance was the Gillette game, so that's kind of the timeline that we work with.
And so does everybody who wants to do it, are there any tryouts, or everybody makes it, or?
So we don't do cuts or anything of the sort. There's student leadership, and we do part placements, so more experienced students will go on more difficult parts for your instrument, but anyone who wants to join is free to.
Okay. And in terms of the size, I know that even just the band, I think last year there was only 3 or 4 graduating seniors, and again, I know Mr. Owens was a big part in a lot of the band program developing, but 62 is a lot. I mean, what percentage of the band is that? Is that most of the band players does this?
The majority of our band is underclassmen, so I think the ratio is 40 underclassmen to about 20 upperclassmen.
Okay.
And marching band is a requirement, so if you're registered in.
Okay, so if you do band, you have to do marching band. Okay.
So it is ideally 100% of the band.
Okay.
Yeah. So, first of all, great job. You guys are obviously know your stuff and are obviously confident in what you're doing here. I watched the football game, the championship game on TV, saw you guys play the national anthem, I believe. I did not see the halftime show. I'm afraid I missed that, but you guys sounded great. Every time I've heard you guys play, it's been great. So I think it's a great growth, just a great to see the program grow since Mr. Owens has started, but he doesn't deserve all the credit. You guys deserve a lot of the credit too, so great job.
And if you guys would like to check out our show, there are recordings online. I also made a GoPro edit this season, so we have a lot of students wearing GoPros, and I mashed it up so you can go and get that unique perspective on the field in case you're curious.
Where can we get that?
I can send a link to Mr. LaPrette that he'll send out, but if you also Google North Reading High School Marching Band GoPro, you should be able to find it.
I was just going to echo what was said, that the growth isn't just because of teachers, it's because you guys have built this program. So there's a lot to be proud of there. I mean, that's a huge percentage when you think about it, and growing.
An amazing growth.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Dilly.
Yeah, so I wonder if Mr. Owens called in sick just so you guys could get a chance. You had all the answers for the tough questions and the details. You had them right there. It was really
Tell them not to show up more often.
I just want to thank you. I've enjoyed going stopping by band camp and seeing you at Gillette. We've hosted competitions now for the last couple of years. I love when we're able to showcase on campus, and I just want to say something for the parents and the families too that have done a lot of advocacy for new uniforms, working with Mr. Connolly on new uniforms, for the teachers to advocate for support for stipends for all these events. I think there was one weekend where I saw you, at a football game, then I saw you at Veterans Day the next day, and then I think you had a MICA competition the day after. I mean, and you said this is our busy season, but it's unbelievable, just the presence you have in the community, and you sound great, which is so important, so it's great.
You sounded great tonight.
And look great. So,
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, even the presentation, literally every time you're like, okay, I was thinking of my next question, and then it was on the next slide, and I was like, every single one. It was like, okay. So, great job.
Thank you. We really appreciate all the support from the school community and all of you guys too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think kind of stated without spoken is that idea of how music brings people together. And I think that's what we saw, from 2018 until now. It's what I've seen in those competitions, the one that we hosted last year, the one we hosted this year. And certainly if you're with the pep band on Friday nights, and you just kind of, right, it's the music, it's the selection, it's the commitment to playing it, and then, what happens, how it just oozes out of the band and into everybody. So, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
We have one to go, and if we could have Mr. Vazian come up with the students in the AP Computer Science Principles. This was an opportunity, I think, to follow up on a new course that we've had for 2 years now. And, as we talk about new courses, and we'll do it again in a few minutes, when we roll new courses into the program of study, what happens? And certainly with something like AP Computer Principles, why did we bring it in? How is it doing? And well, some people speak to you about that know way more than I do.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Mr. Paul Ivazian. I'm a teacher in the high school, but I'm also a digital literacy specialist. So I work in the tech support program. I run the Chromebook tech help desk in the library. And then I also teach 2 classes in high school. I teach computer science principles, and I teach web design too. And I have 2 students here with me. This is Mahir and Samir, and they're going to present some of their work in a moment after I tell you a little bit about the course. So as Mr. LeBret mentioned, this is our 2nd year offering AP Computer Science Principles, but the course in general is pretty new to the AP College Board. It was started to be offered in 2016, and it was really an answer to bringing more inclusivity and a more equitable approach to computer science education. So it's open to 10th graders through 12th graders. It's open to students that have no background in computer science, and it's really made to appeal to students that might not pursue computer science as their major, but really recognizing that a lot of the things that we do in the future are going to be connected to computer science. So trying to create a course that's going to appeal to students in that way. What do students learn in the course? So not only do we learn coding and how to program, but we also learn about computer science concepts in general. And there's a big focus on computing innovations and computing systems and how computer science and the internet is impacting our world now and going forward. And then we also do quite a bit of programming, and the AP test is a little bit of an interesting approach. So in the AP test, students are going to have an independent project where they have to design their own program and analyze the code for submission to the College Board, and then they also take a multiple choice exam on top of that. So it has a really great mixture of programming, creativity, and creating programs, and then also learning about general computer science concepts and trying to appeal to how computer science connects to all the different subjects that really we cover in high school. AP CSB at NRHS, this is our 2nd year. We just had 4 students last year. This year I have 13 students. I have 4 female students and 9 male students. And I think it's a really great opportunity to have younger students in 10th grade and also going up through 12th grade all in the same class together and learning in an AP environment together. I think it's a really unique opportunity in an AP course to have a mixture of grade levels, because normally with AP you have either just seniors or maybe just juniors, but here we have 10th graders all the way. It happens just to be 10th graders and 12th graders this year. I actually have no juniors, interestingly, but last year I did. And it's a really great opportunity to have students create in the classroom. So I just wanted to see how this technology is going to work, because I knew a lot of things we have are links, and I know we're only sharing this one tab, but this is an example of some of the apps that we create. I know I can go back, hopefully, but these are some apps that were created by students in class.
I opened them for you already if you want to.
Oh, okay, you already opened all the tabs. Are those shared already in the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Anyways, this website, once it loads, it will show all the different apps that students created in the Unit 3 project. So any of these apps are like basically cell phone-based apps where you can run them and use them and interact with them right in the website. And the theme of this project was making an app that helps someone make decisions. So the user would enter some kind of information in there, and the app would help them make a decision. That was the theme of the project.
We did the Starbucks one.
We saw the
Yeah, the
Starbucks one.
Starbucks.
Oh, good, yeah. Yeah, Suchi did come and visit last time.
I wanted to take one.
Oh, I see. Now I made a mistake. And now, hopefully this will pull up, yeah, okay, so I can run slideshow now.
You're good.
Okay, good. All right, I'm not too bad with technology, but I did see their tabs open. Okay, so I have Mahir and Samir getting ready to share. I think Samir is going to go first, and they're going to share a website they created in their apps, too. Samir, do you want to take over? I think your link is coming up here. Oh, yeah. Well, I should also mention that Matthew Palmer was going to come tonight, but unfortunately he's homesick. But he also he made a website to showcase his Decision Maker app, too, where he made an app that would help someone choose which game console to purchase based on their interests and what games they like, too. So he created this website where he hoped to share a little bit about the app, but unfortunately he's homesick tonight, so wouldn't be able to make it. So I thought I would mention that, since he put so much work into it.
Yeah.
But I will let Samir talk here. I think, Samir, this is nope, not that one. This one. This is yours, Samir.
You can click that share this tab instead.
Oh, I see. Click share this tab instead.
Okay, great. So this is a project we had to do in a unit, and we learned about a lot of computing innovations and how computers work in general. And this is my project for the unit, and I made it was very interesting, and we had to put all the definitions into the project. We list the definitions there, and then we have multiple pages, and we can look at the diagrams of how it works and everything. So while we were learning about all the computing networks and all the other computing principles, we're also learning about how to build websites like I made here. So it goes hand in hand and actually helps me to learn how the internet works in general. And I have another page, and this is about how computing innovations, for example email, is a beneficial thing to our society, and it can really help with how everything works. And we learned about how email works and how emails are sent, emails are received, and what happens when you click on an email and everything like that. So, and I have another project that I made, and it's a quote maker app. So basically you can type a quote in, for example, hello, right? And then and then you can customize it, and then you can click the font, or you can use many other different colors, and you can change the sizes and stuff. So we learned a lot about how to design apps, and one of the things I really like that's outside of computer science is design and stuff. So it really goes hand in hand with that, and computer science really elevates it, and it's definitely in the future of how everything's gonna work in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice job.
Great.
All right. So my website is right here. If I believe share this tab instead.
And Samir, what grade are you in?
Oh, I'm in 10th grade. I'm
You're
a
in 10th?
sophomore. Yeah.
And Mahir, are you a sophomore too? Or
I'm also a sophomore.
Okay.
But this is my portfolio site. Throughout the class so far, we've had many different units where we focus on different parts of computer science, beginning with overall computer systems and how networking and different components work. This is a website I had made with the help of Mr. A, and this involves a lot of the projects we had worked on. That is a picture of me when I was younger, courtesy of my mother. But we have some of the really cool stuff that Mr. A has taught us. So we have the website here. So while Samir had done his focusing on computing innovations such as email, my peer Parker and I had done ours regarding parallel and sequential computing, and to say that in more in some sort of allegory, I would say, is to describe how a computer can run multiple tasks at once using different processors to make a task go faster, on how you can clean a room much faster if you have multiple hands, but too many hands is impractical. But yes, this is the website. As you can see, parallel and distributed computing. Here, I made some diagrams regarding this and how it would be easier if a computer had to do 20 tasks and it would run one task per minute. It'd take 20 minutes. But if you had 5 smaller CPUs doing the same thing, it would take 5 minutes for each one. And if they run at the same time, it would take 5 minutes total. And this is talking about how the CPU runs with RAM, which is random access memory, and how that can help with quicker data writing. We also have some actual projects made in class, and as Mr. A had shown earlier, there was the Decision Maker app, and I forgot about sharing this tab, but there is the Decision Maker app, and I would say this is my favorite project so far. This is regarding whether you should fix your phone, and I don't know, it might be hard to see, but my phone is quite in a state, so it inspired me to make an app regarding on how you should fix your phone. So first is whether your phone turns on, and I would say yes. My phone is about, I would estimate, 44% broken. So you can take it there, and as you can see, the background is dynamic with the scroll bar, something we're very proud about. And does it charge? Yes, but the battery life is about 2 hours. So regarding these options I had put in that are realistic to my situation, it should tell me whether I should fix my phone, and then a description of it. But let's say you had a phone that was unfathomably broken. Let's say it did not turn on and it didn't charge, and you had less than an hour battery life. It would tell you to get a new phone, and how it ended up like that is beyond the app. But regardless, it would be a better idea to do that. But I believe this was a fun app to make with the things we had learned in class. And I feel that AP Computer Science principles not only help me understand how things that we use every single day truly work and the deeper roots of it, but also how applications you use on a daily basis all use similar aspects and coding principles that Mr. A has wonderfully taught us in class to be able to make apps of our own. So, thank you.
Excellent. Nice job.
So,
Okay.
Fabulous.
Questions? Comments?
I'll say, I work for a software company. The basics, the fundamentals that you are both talking about are part of things I deal with every day. So it's not in the future. It's now. Like the things you're talking about. How do emails work? Well, my company works in email archiving, financial archive, compliance archiving. Oh, I know, super exciting, super exciting. But
You're archiving all my emails, is what you're doing.
yes, we are, but that's a different discussion. I will say everything that you just talked about is in some form of conversation I have every single day. So it's very practical, and it's very fundamental to not just software. I mean, it took me, you know how long it took me to create diagrams like that? I mean,
Google Drawings.
I've got Visio. I mean, but it's fundamental to a lot of industries, not even just software. So congratulations for not only participating in it, but for really embracing it and understanding the value of it. So great work.
Thank you.
Since I don't understand any of it, I'm gonna start a little more.
You do not work
broad.
for a software
I do
company.
not work for a software company, but I have a couple of more broad questions. Number one, like, what is it that motivated you to get into this, and like, what's your background? Like, what did you do before you took this class? Like, because again, this is pretty advanced already. So I mean, what started the interest, and what's kind of your background before you even took this class?
Okay, yeah. I felt like the internet was like a big hub for creativity and everything. So I saw how it connects to multiple other subjects that I'm interested in. And computer science actually like interconnects every one of those subjects. And like all of my interests are met with computer science at one point, which I can use to enhance my other interests too. And computer science itself is a big interest for me because it's a really cool thing to see how like everything is working with technology basically at this point. Yeah.
I would also say that the big growth in the class, I would say it's a big part due to how Mr. A had taught us. I had 6 of us in the class. We are 6 of us are sophomores, and 5 of us had Mr. A last year in a web design course that we took, which taught us the basics, but also a lot more advanced subjects within HTML and CSS coding, which helped us design websites, especially the one that we had shown earlier. And I
Scott,
feel-
I'll tell you what those things mean
Yes,
later.
please do.
But we were able to learn those coding languages to be able to make the websites now, and I feel that it gave us a really good introduction to computing, and I want to learn more, so it ended up leading to me taking the class.
And so the other question, I mean, one thing that I think is nice, and we've seen this in different ones, like we've seen people that are interested in theater. We've added, more advanced theater classes. We're going to talk about, English. It's nice to be able to, you have an interest in something, not just take one course, but really delve into it a little bit more. I mean, the concern from the school committee role is always just making sure there's enough people. So hearing that there's 13 people in it is good as well. But do you know, like, getting an AP level course, so obviously it helps challenge you and gives you some credit for it, but does it also help you for, the next level? Like, you don't have to take certain courses at college? I mean, is there an advantage of an AP level course for the next level for you? Do you know?
Well,
Mr. A might know that more.
It gives them credit for their first semester computer science course.
Okay.
So if you're a math major, you have to take 2 computer science courses as part of your major. Obviously, if you're a computer science major, you have to take several computer science courses, but this class counts as your
Basic.
It's like a first semester computing course.
So it'll save some of the prerequisites at college, so they can just focus on other things earlier.
Yeah.
Depending on how you do.
Yeah.
And there is one more advanced AP class for computer science that would be after this class.
That
This
was
class
going to
created
be
as
my
a more-
question. Because you guys are only sophomores. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, there's one more AP computer science class called AP Computer Science Java, where they learn the Java programming language, but that AP class, it had a lot of prerequisites required for it, so it wasn't really something that the average student could just take as their first introduction to computer science. So the AP Computer Science Principles course is really created to appeal to those type of students where, they might be interested in, another subject area like science or math, but they really, it's a great opportunity to see how computer science connects to that and be able to take an introductory course that still goes advanced enough to be able to offer AP credit.
And what is the development, because I know computer science is starting in 6th and 7th grade as a, half a year 6th and half a year 7th.
Mhm.
So then, is there a computer science program and then from starting in 8, 9, 10, all the way up, or?
So I think 8th grade, there's a robotics program that's an elective class. So I think it's one of the general arts classes, so students have an option of taking chorus or art or robotics.
Okay.
So it's only a certain amount of 8th graders that take
Okay.
robotics. And then in the high school, we also have robotics, and then we have web design. And then we have this AP Computer Science Principles, and then we have a computer programming course also, and then we have AP Computer Programming in Java too.
Okay.
And I think we've seen how it's even introduced at the elementary level, too. We've seen presentations here where students brought in their sort of their basic programming projects of connecting the dots, as it were, in a physical way. That was very interesting, yeah.
I'm just trying to think, were you able to in middle school take any of those classes, or were those after you went through? Did you do the 7th
I
grade?
think they both actually are new students. Samir is
Yeah.
new here in 10th grade.
I moved from Melrose, right? So I in Melrose there were like not many, but there were some classes that I took. In Melrose there was actually like clubs more than classes, but it really helped like me get the interest of computer science. But I'm really liking this class. It's a really good class here, and I really like it. Yeah.
I had moved here in 8th grade during the pandemic, and in Cambridge, at least the school I went to, there weren't many options for really choosing your classes, rather than the school choosing them for you depending on how your grades or teachers reflected on how you were in class. So there weren't really computer science classes, but there was a robotics club, which I had considered, but I did not end up doing.
That's great. It's something Dr. O'Connell and I have talked about, is that 8th grade piece, because we did introduce it at 6th and 7th for all students. That was one of our goals, was to build more students. So we will see more students, I think, starting to enroll based on this, but she's specifically talked about 8th grade, really wanting that to continue. because it's so important. And so it's a larger conversation we have to have.
Yeah. I just wonder what the next, because
Yep.
again, where it starts to get to here and.
And is this a new AP course from the AP?
The course itself, yeah, was new from the College Board in 2016.
Okay.
And then it started to be offered in high schools after 2016. This is the second year that we've had it at North Reading High School.
So I think it's great that the College Board, I mean, to me, I look at courses like this, like the environmental science course, where it's a good entry-level course for younger students. You don't have to have the serious level of prerequisites, and allows students at a younger age to get involved in that AP work, which is, I think, a really good boost as well.
Yep, exactly.
Not to say they're not as rigorous, but, you know, without those prerequisites, it makes it a lot easier.
Well, great presentation.
Fabulous, thank you.
Outstanding.
Okay, nice job, guys.
Awesome presentation across the
Great.
board.
Very good.
I think just to kind of take a moment and, kind of speak about why I kind of left that course to the end of the presentation, as we're going to roll into new courses,
courses.
requesting to get into the program of study. We don't have to do it right now, per se. But again, as we look at, anytime we are considering new courses, we talk about relevancy, we talk about accessibility, we talk about equity, how does a course fit into a specific, content and pathway and things like this. And I think with that presentation, certainly at AP Principles, you saw that. We considered, where were we a couple of years ago? We had one course that sophomores could take that was an AP course. Now we have 3. And again, that sense of accessibility, that sense of equity, and interest, right? So now we have US History, AP US History.
Okay.
We have AP Environmental Science, and we have AP Computer Principles. So, right, if I see myself as a certain type of student, I have an access point into an area of interest, which is, one that is amenable to me, and then allows me to move forward down a specific path, or take a right or a left turn if needed as well. So this same philosophy I'm going to be relying on as we talk about the next 2 courses, and I don't know if we can going to transition to that right now.
No, we can go
Yep,
there.
absolutely.
Right.
Actually, one quick question on,
Sure.
this is more probably on the policy we're going to talk about, but is there any more discussion? I mean, it's great to offer more AP courses, but we don't have to take this right now, but I'm also curious about, we had the conversation last year about limiting the number of AP courses. And I'd be curious to continue that, because I think that's really important. And again, I still think the compromise position is having a limited number that count as weighted, as opposed to, and then again, if they're not getting credit for the weighted, they're probably not going to take it anyways. Then you're not limiting them if somebody did want to take it. But I'm just in the background, it doesn't have to be today, but since you're talking about the number of AP courses, I'm just really curious about making sure that discussion is still going on, because, from last year, that's one thing that really stuck with me when you gentlemen were both here talking about that last year, so.
Not having been here last year, what was the
Yeah, what
proposal?
was the volume?
So some of the students were taking
Lots of classes.
6 AP classes in a year, at a time.
Yeah.
And so there was a discussion, we had a pretty thoughtful discussion, I think, with, about whether we should limit the number. And again, I think there's arguments both ways, where you don't want to limit the students challenging themselves, but at the same time, it's like one person pushes out here, so then another person that wants to be number one has to push out there too, and they're not taking any electives or taking anything that has AP in front of it, and so there was a limit put on. And what was the limit that we came to
So
last year?
we did essentially create a cap.
Yes.
And say you were allowed 1 AP course as a
Sophomore.
You were allowed 4 AP courses as a junior, and 5 AP courses as a senior. So, and again, keeping in mind that.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, it was a
soft cap.
courses
And
on
the
top, and you're
AP
taking 8 courses total.
Yeah.
So it's 5+ and
Yeah.
4+.
And again, not being here, AP courses you can select, they're self-selected, you don't test into them, right? As long as you have the
They
prerequisites.
are fully accessible, considering the fact that you have the prereqs.
Right.
There's no test.
And do you have to
in this.
maintain a certain GPA?
You do not. So again, the last thing I would want any student to feel like is the school didn't let me, right? I wasn't allowed to. So those are kind of open enrollments, again, considering that you have.
How does that work? I'm sorry to be going down, but does that work well? Like if you have maybe kids that are just like, I want to say I took AP biology, but then they're not keeping up. Does that happen?
That does happen. Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think that is why we rely on our guidance counselors, we rely on our communication with parents, we rely on teacher feedback. So when we do course recommendations, which is gonna start, in a couple of weeks, for juniors, those are very real and relevant conversations. And we try to communicate, certainly the program of study has very clearly printed in there what is expected at each level. What can you expect at an academic level course, which is a college level course? What, college prep course, excuse me. What can I expect out of an honors course? What can I expect out of an AP course? And I'll be saying this on Wednesday night with the incoming, 8th graders, to say, we want you in a spot where you're challenged, but you're not overwhelmed. And you're in that kind of stretch zone where, you're working. And, that's kind of I think most studies would tell you that's a good spot for productivity. But you also have to know enough about yourself, or at least be willing to have conversations with guidance staff and counseling staff to say, yeah, this is too much. And that's part of what we'll see a little bit later on with some of this policy language, to say, and I think this is a very reasonable place to be, I want to be responsive to what students are saying to me. And when we hear students say, I'm stressed out, I am too anxious, I lost sight of it, I became a perfectionist, I became obsessed with this, and when we see that from our counseling staff, and we see that from data that is very real with respect to how many safety evals are we doing with students, and what's the follow-up on mental health conversations around students, and we see it, we hear it, so what are we doing about it? And the recommendations that we're making with respect to some of those changes in that language in IHC are around that. But again, also to look at keeping the courses accessible and keeping them at a place where I think the students can manage, and still have a broad selection and can manage their coursework and do all of, you saw all the other things that can happen at the school, that are happening at the school. Like, don't go down some hole where as we've had a student speak last year, like, I wasn't that happy. I just wasn't happy. I think I look at all the things that I missed and I didn't really get to do because I was caught in this kind of perfectionist loop.
And I think
that's not a good place.
And I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but just for Noel and Jeff's sort of benefit, districts can take different approaches to AP classes, right? Some districts can be very restrictive about them because because the focus is on being successful in those AP classes, and especially at the test. Yeah. Getting the top 2 scores and avoiding anything below that. I think North Reading has, certainly even before I was on the committee, certainly during the time Scott was, but even before that, it's a different approach, right? It's been much more of an inclusive approach, where obviously we want people to do well, and our commitment, one of the commitments we ask from those students is they commit to taking the test. You can't take the class without agreeing to take the test. But that, as a district and certainly as a committee, we're not looking at scores saying they should be higher, right? There's too many 3s and not enough, I forget if the best score is 1 or 5, but 5. Our focus is on getting students, is making sure they're available to the students and they can challenge themselves. But then this is the other side of that. So we make sure that they're not overwhelmed, that they don't overwhelm themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and again, it's great to see them offered in more areas, so more students, and maybe somebody who, isn't great in English, but they prefer computer science, or they're really good in science. They have many offerings, but I think the limit last year was really talking about 2 or 3 students that particular year. But I think it could be even a little bit more, back where, again, there's more to school than just, where you're finishing rankings and everything else. And if you stress kids out in high school, whereas, again, frankly, those students would have been probably where they were anyways if there was only 8 classes offered. I don't think that they got there because they could take 11 classes. They got there because they worked really hard and they were excellent students, and so they can still get there, but, making it so that they can, participate in other things. And I just want to make sure that, I think last year we agreed to what the cap was, but I think we also want to make sure that we're continuing to evaluate and maybe even say that was step 1 of, potentially 2 or 3, just making sure.
This sounds like it's the next step, the
So,
policy
is that-
change.
Well, it is. It's not limiting the number of
No, but
actual
it's-
courses, but yes, that's, the conversation, so. All right.
And just to refocus the conversation, the great thing about this course, the computer science course, and I think this one here, is that
the art one.
these appeal to some new students that, again, are not necessarily that interested in AP history and AP, and all the sort of standard AP courses, so.
Yes, you want to go to proposals?
Sure, thank you. So, in the English department, literature and the human experience, this would be a junior-senior elective. And what in the past, some of the feedback from students and some of the feedback from some of the faculty is kind of how can we effectively offer courses that are appealing to students that have specific special interests. And how could we do it in a way that would kind of allow for a semester course model? Given our block schedule, semester courses are not an easy thing to schedule in. So what we did is we said, okay, well, offer a course in 2 halves. So we had, this kind of epics and fairy tales. We had poetry. We had a course on Shakespeare. We had all of these kind of, in literature, all of these kind of different, let's call it kind of special interest type topics. So many of them didn't run. Low enrollment, and ultimately you have a course out there that nobody's taking, and kind of just because the number's not there. So the English department goes back, reworks this a little bit, and says, okay, let's make this kind of almost, if you would, like a survey course type of a thing. And we're able to look at the specific genres and assess and analyze the literature in those kind of on a quarterly basis. Not necessarily it's going to be specifically tied to, the day per se, but look at it that way and see if this isn't something that gets more kids connected with this kind of literature. And, again, there's tremendous literature out there, and how can we make it accessible to more kids?
So is this replacing some other offerings?
So this would replace, Shakespeare would kind of come out of the program of study. Epics and fairy tales would come out of the program of study, and this would go in there in its place. And see if it runs, see what happens.
One thing I love about this is Shakespeare encompasses all of the other 3 genres, right?
Sure.
So it's a great connective tissue there.
It is.
With these courses, are you, that are proposed, do you already have a faculty member in mind if it runs?
I would say, I might. I think the English department probably, so basically what happens is we'd say, okay, once we decide what the courses we're gonna offer are, and once that program of studies is complete, when we do our course selection process and kids sign up for courses, then we go back and kind of run those numbers back and look at that, how that lines up with sections available for teachers, and then let the departments kind of figure that out. So I know who would typically, I think, would be doing our Shakespeare course and who would be doing our epics course. So I think that's kind of the person that I think it is, but I try not to do that too much, because then we get, trapped necessarily, and all of a sudden, somebody has to do something else, and, oh, I didn't get the course I wanted, and then, so there's certainly some structural things that we can kind of do to make that happen, but there's no guarantees.
Dr. Daly?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's And my understanding is it's very collaborative and that the departments and the teachers in the departments propose some of these ideas based on some of their passions
Right.
and strengths and,
That's great.
and abilities. So when they get to that process through the curriculum leaders to Mr. LaPret, some people, there's probably people that would like to
This
be
is their
involved,
pa-
and then
their
it's sort of a
passion.
conversation with the department
And
leader,
that's a
with
department,
AJ,
obviously.
to figure
Yeah.
that out. But, so there's a lot of excitement coming from the teachers with these
I can
proposals,
sense
which
it.
is always exciting, yeah.
Well, and the other piece of this is, I mean, I remember hearing about some of these other courses, so that was going to be my question on like, why this in addition to the other ones? But it's good to hear that like, there's still the interest there, it just didn't hit the way that it was proposed, so to try to redo it, because, you do have to have a number of offerings, but you also have to have enrollments in order to make it, make sense.
Yeah, and I think, I'm going to, reference a quote from way back in the day of, the school runs so much smoother when students are taking the courses they want. And we can look at, like, why are you cutting class? Why are you over here? How come this happened? Was it, I didn't sign up for this class. I have zero interest class. You put me in there. Why, you want me to, obviously.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? You get the course you want, and,
Yeah.
you're there. You're not someplace else. So, let's go to AP. Now, again, an additional AP.
Yep.
This would go into the junior column. So now that,
The only junior column?
well, we're gonna kind of,
Okay.
let's say column B, excuse me. Column A, sophomore eligible. And that is AP Environmental Science, that is AP US History, and that is AP Computer Principles. Column B, juniors and seniors. And then column C, seniors, and then seniors could choose from C, D, or A.
Okay.
But this is, so kind of junior, senior eligible. Mr. Dexter, as the curriculum leader in the visual arts department, has done a lot of work, and you saw some of it today with Maya. And I think we can go back and, I'm recalling when we were remote, and I had the visual arts presentation, if you recall, those students, well, if you were on the committee at that time, some of that artwork was just phenomenal. And in fact, Nesrin was mentioned as one of our Stuco leaders. I still remember her portrait on her fingerprint, if you recalled that. So anyway, he's done a tremendous amount of work with students in the art program, and this is a course that we've talked about for a long time. We have an honors level art portfolio class, but to kind of break into that AP category with this course, I think makes a lot of sense. And again, it allows those students to work at that high level, build that portfolio out. And I would just say, this has nothing to do with where we are right now. My son took AP art and when he was a senior in high school, and he's a mass art. So I think, again, it really helps them, effectively build their craft and put their portfolio together, and I think it would be a really good addition to our program.
So on this one, two questions again. Number one, is this an extension of what's already there, like the next step that's logical, or is this a replacement of something? And do we think there'll be enough students that are there that are eligible that would be interested in it?
Great question. So I would say this is a logical extension.
Okay.
And this would run concurrent with our own art portfolio honors class.
Okay.
So it's not costing us an extra section or an extra teacher. We're looking at the numbers. I feel like we could definitely run both sections concurrently, and that would be fine. Because this is kind of such an independent curriculum.
This has there's a huge variety here, from ceramics to drawing. I mean, that's a pretty broad thing.
It is. It is.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love this stuff, and the literature class before that, I would love to take that, so it's a different discussion. But this is really, really broad. We have someone or someones who can cover all that ground.
Well, again, in the department,
Yeah.
and what they've taken, you know, I think, again, they're building their portfolio as they go.
Sure.
So they're not necessarily, they may jump back into a ceramics section if it works
Sure.
currently with that time, and to work another piece or something like that.
Sure.
But I don't see it as, too overwhelming for the department to handle.
Great.
Are we seeing growth in the art department in terms of,
Enrollment?
yeah, in terms of interest, for lack of a better term, more serious interest in some of these art classes?
I would say, yeah, I mean, I would say yes. I think we could, I don't have the specific numbers, kind of off the top of my head here, but when we look at, so ceramics is always a popular class. And drawing and painting is a very popular class. Foundations of art as an entryway pathway. So a lot of students want, I mean, that's kind of why that's a, kind of a prereq for so many of the advanced other courses. I still think we could probably look at freshman and sophomore schedules and say, yeah, you know what, more students lean toward business than they do art. But I think there's been a shift for sure in the last, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years, that that the arts are, chipping away, catching up a little bit on that, certainly on that entry level coursework.
Is there a set minimum for a class to run?
That's a great question, too. I would say.
Because one ran with 4 apparently.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Right, sometimes.
Right now, look
Maybe
at
no.
it, right?
I mean, we're never gonna get to 13.
Yeah.
If we don't run it with 4.
Right,
Right.
as
So
as a
that's-
startup, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the game that we play. And we're always weighing it out and kind of, what can we do and how can we get this? And, we had AP Spanish with 5 and now it's up to 12.
Yeah.
So we the last thing we want to do is, even with an AP course, say we're not gonna run it.
Yeah.
And just, leave a student hanging out to dry on something that they've, kind of built up,
Yeah.
and prepared for.
And again, I mean, at the risk of being negative and positive at the same time, I think from a school committee level.
so no,
From a school committee level, we talk a lot about special education and making sure that everybody can have an accessible curriculum and education they can get. But I think everybody should be able to be challenged as well. So if you're particularly gifted in an area, we need to make sure that we challenge those students as well and provide them opportunities. But the challenge, of course, is from the school committee level. Budgets are going to be tough the next couple of years. We'll talk a little bit about this later on with money, and these are the challenges we might have sometimes where we do have to look and see, well, what is the enrollment in all these classes? And we have a lot of classes with 10 or 11 students in them, and I don't know, that's just a challenge. I mean, and by no means am I saying we won't approve these courses tonight, but it's just, I think that's the challenge from our level here is we're fine approving whatever courses you guys think need to be run. I just think eventually, depending on what the budget says,
Comes a numbers game.
there might be a time where we have to sit down and look at these and really understand what the enrollment is and, making sure that we can, that we have the funding to do everything while there's a lot of other needs as well, social emotional learning and everything else that we have to focus on, so.
Sure.
Yeah, that's just the
And just so
challenge,
you
yeah.
know, on the
Yeah.
other side, when I can run a concurrent class with an
Yeah.
AP course, I do, I absolutely.
Yeah.
We have that with French right now, French 5 and AP French. We've,
When you're saying you run concurrently, meaning,
it's a combined section.
okay,
Both sections run at the same time, in the same classroom, with the same teacher.
okay, so the same teacher is teaching 2 classes.
And that's what will happen with this
Okay.
class.
The second one is a concurrent
This will
class,
be a
and the
class.
first one is actually replacing something that you felt
Replacing
didn't
two
have
classes.
Which
great enrollment.
with a
Yeah.
couple of sections that had low enrollment that neither were gonna run, and you want to take all the kids that wanted this and put them in there, like,
Yeah.
not great. So, you end up running neither.
Yeah.
Hopefully this, solves some of that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
and
you're just responding to the need, you're reconfiguring, which is
Yeah.
good.
Concurrent classes make a lot of sense. And,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it works and sometimes it's, it's a
well, I
square
would
peg in
think,
a round hole,
I
but.
would- yeah.
Phys ed and ceramics should run together.
I would think all the work that we've done on UDL and stuff like that just facilitates that. It brings teachers the training necessary to sort of focus on each student individually and give them what they need.
Right. I think with the languages, for sure, with
art,
the
yeah.
art, for sure, portfolio-based, kind of independent project-y type courses.
For sure, yeah.
Those are, we seize that when we can, absolutely.
And just say computer science, another one with concurrent.
Yeah.
And so, again, the teachers really believing in these courses, wanting to see them succeed, taking on that challenge of having some differentiated within the room, but knowing that it's all working towards one goal, has allowed us to do this. So I think this is one that's, really Mr. Dexter and Mr. LaPrette, through our NRPS 2025 visioning process, really were pushing it. I know they've discussed it a lot at our Fine Arts Subcommittee, so to see it get to this place where we have this level with an AP in the arts is great. So.
Right, and we may see, in music, we may see a similar thing. If you have enrollment enough to run AP Music Theory, then maybe that runs concurrently with music theory.
Yeah. And a concurrent class also offers some opportunities where there can be more mentorship and things like that as well, where younger students or, maybe somebody that's not as skillful can see somebody even more
point.
skillful and I imagine that can be really,
yeah. Seeing.
Okay, well, I keep distracting you from your point, but, so, do we want to move, any more?
So that's it,
Are we ready for?
those are the two,
Okay.
yeah.
So the agenda doesn't say about a vote. Do we need to vote on that?
Presentation and discussion, it says. Do
Yep.
we need to vote to approve these or not?
I think you typically do.
I think
We
we do.
typically do a
Yeah.
motion, I don't think you need to, but I think we could do that.
Yeah, I think we should,
Yeah.
we can express our support.
Yes.
Anyone wants to offer a motion? Or I will.
Go for it. Go ahead, you're the motion man.
I move that the committee vote to approve the two new courses, Literature and Human Experience, an academic level course, and the Advanced Placement 2D Art and Design Portfolio.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Excellent,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
LaPrette,
you.
and one more, I think. Are you staying for the last one, the policy, or not?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, there we go. We're up to the policy.
So, kind of as shown here, this is just me kind of highlighting what, from the slideshow, we have
Yep.
the recommendation striking the second percentile as a reporting category, and then specifically to the commencement ceremony, that the acknowledgement of honor essayists then are selected from the 5th percentile reporting category, and those essays chosen by a panel of, a faculty panel, on a blind read.
And so, as it is now, with the 2%, how many is that normally, and is everybody automatically in it?
So, the 2% is typically.
3 or 4 students, right?
Three kids, 3 or 4 kids, yeah.
Three or
And then the- and
3 or
then
4,
you have the
so,
th-
and there's usually how many
there's
honors essays?
three-
There's 3.
The kind of highest end of, in that 2% are the 3 honor essayists
Okay.
at graduation.
So there's no selection process right now at all, it's the top students?
It's the top students.
Okay.
The
policy
from that
names who they
second
are.
percentile, essentially.
Yes. What was that?
The current policy names who they are.
Well,
That would-
by limiting it to 2%, you're restricting it already.
Right, but currently it names who they are, and then that would change with the incoming freshman class, so it would remain that way.
Right, we wouldn't, yeah,
Yeah.
The idea is to,
And so, and the only other question then is, so, would the students be chosen based on the essay that they write, or the idea that they have, or just on who the student is?
So anybody in that top 5%.
Yes.
Could decide to enter an essay to serve as an honor essayist speaker at graduation. And then the top 2 would be selected from those entries.
And you said.
Based on entry, but it's not, people aren't identified?
They are not identified. They are not identified.
Sorry, my last question on this one then is, because I think we have seen some heavy discussions in the essays in the last few years.
We have.
And so I would be very curious to understand the criteria as well. Is it how well it's written? Is it how it's, the emotion? Or is any of this going to be based on the content of the writing? I mean, what is going to be the
So is there-
criteria? Or is it up to
a
the?
scoring rubric per se?
Yeah, or is it completely up to the people
So
on
the-
there
the-
about,
the
like, if I don't think
panel-
this is appropriate for a
The panel is
speech?
typically drawn from number one, interested faculty members to across a couple of different disciplines, so it's not just the English department per se. And we've had consistently kind of a broad variety. I have not put specific weights on certain categories, kind of, topic, or how well it's written, or how well does it relate to the audience, and things like that. But I would say generally from the last, that selection process is for the class essayist, which we would keep, because that exists. In the spirit of education, I'm always trying to create fun little acronyms. So the organization that we have that reads the essays is called SEPTER, and that is the Senior Class Essayist Panel of Teacher Readers. So SEPTER reads the essays. And SEPTER would, also, as a body, would continue in its formation and read these honor essays and use the same process.
Are you worried about,
Yeah.
some sort of, I'm trying not to use anything too harsh, but some sort of filtering,
Well,
end
I
up
think-
filtering based on content?
I always want to think about I try to understand what the purpose of it is, but also what the detractors of the policy would say.
Right.
And I think the detractors will say that this could be censorship, where somebody has a topic that the faculty doesn't want to hear or whatever. And again, I'll be honest, I gave a speech at my graduation, and mine was very G-rated compared to a lot that I've heard the last few years. But I just want to understand where it's going to come from, because I think we will hear a little bit of, I didn't get it because my speech was too, liberal, it was too whatever. And I just want to make sure we have that discussion. I think that's our responsibility here if we're being asked on this policy to really think about that. So.
To ask it enough, go ahead.
Why the change? What drove you to want to change it?
Sure. So we have seen, again, in the past, I'd say there's a couple of things that are kind of at work here. One is, again, responsiveness to student feedback, direct student feedback around anxiety, around stress, around kind of an unhealthy approach to competition, where how do I leverage a little bit more to get a little bit more to get a little bit more without thinking for a moment about my own mental health. And we are very mindful in conversations with students that struggle at times throughout the year around course load and around having very real conversations about their own safety, and then saying, by the way, your 5 AP courses, we need to make changes there, and just being like, no, that can't happen. It's the detachment, at times. So we've seen this. We've seen students say things like, we can look at a specific student who spoke last year about this, the obsession with perfection. And I think what we're trying to do is draw the distinction between a healthy pursuit of excellence versus perfectionism. And again, those things are very real as we see them. And I think as we've heard of them, even someone speaking last year at graduation. So we want to be responsive to that. I also feel like in that sense of equity, in that sense of saying, okay, well, I just, I was 0.02 off of you, where you are. You don't even want to speak at graduation. I do. I've got this great thing to say, but I don't have the right to talk. I mean, so it's a little bit like, why are we, why aren't we a little bit more accessible when we could be? So I think we've certainly looked at kind of the simple fact that as the ways out for students that are in that 2%. You know, the college admissions, they do their own rescaling of your GPA anyway, so it's kind of like they may have it flipped. You might be over here, and the school that you're trying to get into might have it flipped the other way. So I think there's a number of factors at play. I don't know if I totally answered your question.
So Diana,
Right.
I think, can I try to answer your question a little bit too? Because I actually asked the same question of Patrick in the policy
Yeah, because
subcommittee meeting.
this was from the policy
Because I had the
subcommittee.
same
Let's hear
exact
from them, too.
question. And so, and I had a little bit of an education too, because I didn't even realize, being new to the school committee and not having students in the high school, that there is no more ranking. That's been gone since 2016 or before, right? So this percentile is, and tell me if I'm incorrect, but it simply serves to choose the honor essayists and perhaps informal bragging rights, but it's not, there's no formal ranking anymore. Am I correct?
So the ranking and the reporting, I guess, I'm going to let you speak about that. Yeah.
It's a little semantics, because when a college asks us if we rank, we say yes, because
Oh, you
but
do.
we don't do a numeric rank, like maybe.
It's a percentile.
Like what I do when I was a kid. And
Right.
I would say that, I think you'd find most schools have done away with that. So it was, and I actually went back today to like look up to see when we moved to the percentiles, because I remember we did it, coming up with the percentile system and stuff, and I think it was 2010.
Okay.
So it was in 2010 that we moved to the percentile system. So we do report percentiles out to colleges. It is interesting, I don't remember the reasoning, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, why we did a top 2%, except that maybe most of the time the top 2% would be the honor essayists. Because every other percent that we give out is either, we go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, then we start going, we go 40, 50, third quartile, fourth quartile. So every
it
other
still
one
is reported out to.
Yeah, that's what's reported
Okay,
out.
all right, I didn't catch that.
So.
But not individual students.
Right, it's a,
Right.
Third out of 200.
We don't name a valedictorian, we don't name a salutatorian.
Would the number, would number one still be identified then, or are
They
they?
know that they're number one?
They,
I mean,
Yeah,
right,
go ahead.
we do have a tradition, the tradition is that they speak in, and I think the kids know this. Like
The kids sort of,
Yeah.
They speak in sort of reverse order, 3, 2, 1.
That's the change.
And so again, there could also be students that may have an anxiety of getting up there and giving a speech, and so then you could talk about what's the point of the honors essayist? Like, is it to honor the top 3 students, or is it to have good speeches at the graduation for everybody else? I mean, you heard a woman talk today about like wanting to hear keynote speakers and wanting to hear good speeches, but again, is the goal just to kind of, where nobody even knows who's number one anymore? Is that the ultimate goal here? That we
well,
don't
one would
know?
say the only way they knew who was number one was when they spoke at graduation.
Right.
That's the only way, and again, like, what is reported and then ranked, and then the percentile piece. So you do report a rank, but as a percentile.
okay. So for those competitive kids, there's no way that they can say, oh, this is my number and I'm.
They don't have a number, right? They're in a percentile.
Okay.
Well, they'll each know their own GPA.
They'll know
correct?
their
And they know, oh,
GPA.
yeah, well, again,
They'll know amongst
they all
themselves.
sit there and they compute their own GPA, so they.
Right, but
they-
They'll figure out the
that's
GPA,
different.
but they won't know the
Yeah.
weighted. I mean, that doesn't include weighting. So, in theory, the percentile will be the primary way that they understand where they fit in the hierarchy.
So, but the point of the change, going back to what Diana was saying, the point of the change, it doesn't sound like it's to open up the number of students that are speaking. It seems like the point is to eliminate identifying
Well,
the top
Well,
3 or 4.
I would say
I
there's
think
a-
it's
the
to
pressure
eliminate.
off.
I would say, I was gonna say, I would say there's another key point,
Yeah.
which is, don't force someone to speak who doesn't want to speak, and provide an opportunity for a deserving student to speak who doesn't currently have that opportunity.
And reduce some level of anxiety and competition for the top whatever few slots.
It might be helpful today. I
Yeah.
remember when this was an agenda item.
Go ahead.
The school-based leadership team, and it'll just, we've already kind of talked about this, but
Mhm.
we really were talking about this, you know, sort of this drive and how, to be number one, you do need to be perfect. I think if I went back, I don't think we've had a student with less than an A that's been, you know, and excuse me, for we just talked about how there really isn't a number one, but you know what I mean, sort of the
Right.
last honor essayist to speak. So those students know that they shoot for, they cannot get a grade below a 93. That's our A range, and that's how they get it. So we were talking about, I think in some local schools that have done away with any type of, you know, address from the valedictorian. I don't know that there's many of those, but, and I think a lot of the times was to, you know, sort of take the pressure off this. So I think we were talking about it as a leadership team, and we were like, you know, is there also a way to like hopefully value achievement over perfectionism, if I'm saying that well enough, while also still sort of recognizing these students that are at the top of the class. And there's not much that differentiates them. Right. Usually it's probably the student has an A minus or one less honors class or something like that. Right. So I think that was one of the places this conversation originated.
It's,
Yeah.
so to me, and again, this dovetails with what we spoke about a few days ago, this doesn't prevent anybody, I don't think anybody's gonna not get into MIT or Harvard or any of the top tier schools because of this, in my humble opinion. But it sort of dovetails with what was just talked about of, okay, we're considering, we're limiting the number of AP classes all along the path. Why? So it allows students to feel free to say, okay, I can do other things. To me, this is a minor extension of that, a small extension, because it's not going to impact that many students. But still, it has that same sort of feel of like, oh, I don't have to take, it's okay not to take that one extra AP class because I'm already in that top 5% and I'm not worried about, am I going to reach that one extra slot? Anyway, that's my pitch.
Yeah, there's a quote from a speaker last year: when you go your whole life being defined by others and by yourself as academically overachieving, anything less than perfection in your grades feels devastating. And, you know, those are, you know, when you see those faces every day and you hear this, it's hard not to think like, okay, what can we do? Is this an area we can go to respond to this? And this isn't one student talking, right? I have this one quote because it was very real, we heard it. But again, it goes back to that piece of what is healthy striving and healthy, you know, where is learning in perfectionism, right? Where is, I can make a mistake and that's okay. That's learning, that's a good thing. I make a mistake, I needed to be here and I can't overcome that because I made a mistake. Where we want to celebrate mistakes. That's the whole fail forward thing. So I think this allows us to get closer to that.
So I'll add one more thought, and then I want to go to the actual language here as well. But I don't know if I agree with the overall discussion necessarily. I don't know that we have to say that we can't identify it. I identify who finished first, who finished second, who finished third. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that or disagree, really. I'm not sure. But I think what we're being asked right now is specifically just to look at how the honors essayists are chosen. And so to that point, I think, because I think there's other reasons why. There could be students that don't want to speak that would have been chosen to speak. And I think there's other reasons for it, but if we're just looking at the specific policy that is on the table, I think I could probably support the policy, although I don't love the wording in because it talks about, the whole thing talks about how the honors essayist is chosen. Then the last line just says, beginning in 2027, you know, the top 5% will be chosen, will be eligible. I think there needs a little bit more of, I just want to make sure that the rest of it is, what else is changing for 2027? Is anything else changing in 2027?
The second percentile will no longer be reported.
Okay, so I almost think from the language, I think it should be through the class of 2026, this is what's going to happen. beginning with the class of 2027, this should happen.
A more explicit, what the change is.
Yeah, the two different ones. This is through 2026, this is beginning in 2027. And then after 2027, we can actually just probably amend it again and eliminate the prior
Makes
to.
sense.
I just think that's the only thing that I found a little bit confusing in the wording.
Sure.
I would have liked to see that sort of like until through 2026, beginning in
That makes
2027.
sense.
But I think I'm okay with the actual policy. I don't know that I don't want that acceptance to necessarily say I agree with every reason behind it necessarily, if that makes sense. But,
Duly noted.
I-
yes, go ahead.
So I sort of feel, I may be a little more on board with some of those stated
Yep.
reasons than you are, but I do want to circle back a little bit to the faculty panel and the sort of
Yeah.
criteria for choosing the essayist. I guess what I would be concerned that would happen is that faced with, you know, a number of good essays that are all really well written, that one might stand out in its composition and quality of writing, but be with a really uncomfortable topic, however you might want to discuss that, or define that. And that might influence people to not vote to support that essay over another one, not because they agree or disagree, but just because it's uncomfortable. And I don't know that anywhere in the policy we can address that. That's kind of a hard thing at a high level of policy to address, but it's something that I would be concerned with. To me, if I would assume that, as might be the case with the current system, when an honor essayist presents their essay, and this is what I'd like to say, that there's an opportunity to, if that topic is uncomfortable or presented in a way that, you know, as a community, a school community, we might decide isn't entirely appropriate, that we might work with the essayist to get the message that they want to get out, but maybe change it, just make it a little more
Is it,
comfortable.
Well,
And I just want to make
that
sure.
happened last year, I
and
think.
Where I.
2 years ago, maybe.
Two is it?
one thought is, and, you know, I'm not trying to change anything radically, but just as a thought, do you want to leave one slot as like, look, you've got a bunch of qualified essays, pick one randomly? And it then becomes, it removes a bias, and yeah, maybe it's an uncomfortable topic, maybe it's not. And it's just a thought, that, and maybe that's only if there is complaint and maybe some level of justification of like, anyway, sorry.
No,
I just wanted to say, so, again, new, there was 3 honor essays last year. And
Yes,
then there's
and a class
another
essayist. It's
essayist.
a class essayist.
And how is that chosen? Is that
That's currently chosen with this group, with this SEPTA panel.
so there is already a scoring rubric that has been established for
Well, it's
that?
not a scoring rubric.
Okay, it's just a,
It's so it's a weighted 1, 2, 3. Pick your first, second, third,
Right.
and those votes have weights.
yeah, that's clear, but then the other essayist
Would be straight off of what we would know from our top 2% percentile reporting of who was 3, 2, and 1.
okay, I thought there were 4, I thought there were 4 essays last
There
year.
are.
Yeah, so
There were
3.
Yeah,
and
so
then
how
1.
is number 4 chosen?
That's the panel.
That's the
Right.
panel.
And then the
Okay.
3 would be the 3, 2, 1 off of
Right.
And is the
us.
panel, is the one going away, the class is
No,
going away now?
no, it stays.
There'll still be 3
Four
honors.
from a panel now.
There will still be
And
3
does that-
in the class?
We were,
Because the class could be anybody outside
So
the
the,
5%.
just saying, like, you're concerned about making sure that it's a way of judging these.
So the panel, does that happen just as a discussion amongst the panel? They read all the.
So what has happened again in the past, so they're picking one. And just to go back, Jeff, to your question around like, so when I'm presented with the essays, and, you know, I always meet with the students, and I honestly and openly say to them, the last experience that I want for you in high school is censorship. I do not want that to be you're walking out the door and I was, you know, had to celebrate that there was a censorship issue. So I really don't look to get in there. But what we do talk about is if you have a message, and this is the message you want, is what is the best way to do that? And we've had really, you know, deep and consequential conversations and recommendations to students. And I know that somebody that spoke a couple of years ago took time and sat with our school psychologist, and I want to say this, okay, but if you say this, this equals this. And that's not healthy. I don't think it's what you want to say. Oh, I didn't think of that, I didn't know. So it's a very open process, it has been. I think it's a process that, relies on a lot of trust, and that's been my experience so far. I'm hoping that that's what would continue, is when I'm able to say to a student, I'm not looking to make this about a censorship thing. I'll support you, but you need to be open to some feedback. And if you're not, then you're not, and that's what we end up with. But I would really want you to be open, and then we've had that. We have had that.
Should just another discussion. I'm also just wondering if there's a policy in place and we're being asked to change this policy, and part of it is based on the group that you're talking about. I wonder if that should be in here as well, specifically saying who it is that will be choosing it. And what criteria is used. And I wonder if student voice should be on there a little bit. Maybe the junior class officers have a student or two. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because the point is, right now the honors essayists are very easy to choose because it's the top 3 students. If we're going to change that and open it up, I just want to make sure there's a thoughtful process rather than one line that says next year the top 5% are eligible. I just feel like we're going to be making the honors essay something more than it is right now, because right now it's the top 3 students.
Right.
And if we're going to make it more than what it is, I think we need to have a more thorough discussion about who's choosing it, the criteria that's being used, and,
Well,
Diana?
I guess
Sorry.
the question then is, how much of that should be in school committee policy versus?
just about to say that.
Versus,
Yeah.
I
don't
We
know
can
the
talk
answer.
about it, but I don't
Schools.
think the level of detail needs to be in the
I think we
policy.
should, I think in this discussion and any further discussions we may have, future discussions we may have, we can set our expectations or
Yeah.
our hopes. I think most of that is on you guys.
It says faculty panel. We got 4 years to come up with a rubric. It sounds like we probably should think about that.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, maybe
it might
that's
be
all we
helpful.
need.
It doesn't have to be a detailed rubric, but maybe just more of a, and maybe some of the principles that you said, which I think are great. I think it might be just good to clarify too, that I can say in all honesty, with all the conversations we've had, none of this is a reflection of any of the speeches we've ever heard.
I believe
The
it.
speeches are almost more, this, in my understanding and recollection, this is more of the driver was eliminating the second percentile.
Yep.
Correct.
And then once we eliminate the second percentile,
Then
it
this
kind
is
of
gonna
leads
fall.
to.
This is a
need to
second order
rethink
effect.
The other piece.
Right.
And that was what came, if you remember, these were the recommendations as a part of a larger presentation last year, that then when we talked about printing the handbooks and getting ahead, we wanted to do it through this. So it's really about eliminating the second percentile, making it, instead of 3 or 4 kids, it's 10 kids. I mean, that's what we're really talking about in a given class of 200 or less, right? And getting into this number, and then it's saying, well, if we're doing that, what are the other implications? And so now it's saying, okay, we're opening up to this group of 10, and that's who we're reporting, and letting, from among those 10, the 3 best essays emerge. That's really what I think it's coming to.
Diana?
So having a good system for that is what's coming to, yeah.
I mean, the way that I feel about, like, however you guys want to choose the essayists, I support. It's like, it's that bigger fundamental discussion, which doesn't need to happen for the policy, which is like that balancing of the pressure that you're talking about, but also like the recognition in that drive towards excellence isn't always a bad thing, right? It's not. And it's like, how do you balance that, right, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Because you want to strive to be the best version of yourself and to constantly better yourself. And I think that healthy competition is a good way of doing that. And I know that that's been diluted over time and continues to be. You see it in sports too, and it's a bigger fundamental conversation. But the mental health stuff is real, and I recognize that.
Well, I think
Balancing.
what I appreciate that feedback, because in my mind, what this allows is that I'm going to define what I think is excellence, not necessarily you. If I'm going off of you, I know the courses that you took as a student.
Yeah.
If I know the courses that you took, then I'm basing my,
I'm
success
setting
on
the
you.
bar.
And right, I should be basing it on me and where I want to be. I want to be that speaker, I want to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to work to do that, and I'm going to write an essay that's going to, knock the lights out, because I know I can do it.
Okay,
It has
so-
nothing to do with what courses you took
Yeah.
and how I can, get a better grade than you did.
Yeah.
I have just one more comment, playing devil's advocate, because it's fun. Is there gonna be a school committee 10 years from now where we're talking about eliminating the 5th percentile?
Ooh, the old slippery slope argument.
I think, I mean, I'll just answer that.
Committee talking about eliminating ranking.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of schools have.
Right.
Limiting grades.
When we talk about, when Diana just said a healthy pursuit of excellence, right?
Mhm.
And so this is just redefining what it means to be that. And do you have to be number one to be excellent? And is that healthy?
Right.
And I think
No,
we're
that's a
saying,
really-
right now, it's not
really good
healthy.
point. Yeah.
And we feel that to scale it back to 5th is healthy. In 10 years, who knows? But I think the devil's advocate argument that we talked about in the subcommittee about, we're not trying to water down excellence and say that doesn't matter. And the language that's still here, and it's in another policy as well, that we value, the school committee values, and we, and the superintendent principal, value that pursuit of excellence. It's our motto for the district, right? But it's just trying to find that healthy balance. And we still feel like this is, and I can say in speaking with students who were in those top, I won't say who, because I don't want to say, but in those top few, and I know you and Mr. Rosa and many others have had these conversations, they're like, when I mentioned this last year, they, oh my God, please, 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 please. Like, because they're so, as much as they like being number 1 or being number 2 or number 3, it's like,
Right.
to just say from the outset, and that's why we want to introduce this with incoming freshmen, like, look, over the next 4 years, we want you to, hitting that 5th percentile is still a huge achievement. But it's just that manageable, healthy
Right,
achievement.
Yeah, and when you mentioned, you read a segment of the Honor SAS last year, which stuck with me, and was heartbreaking, really, for someone who's such a high achiever, to have tunnel vision and lost experiences because of that. Regardless, is going on to have a very successful college career and all those types of things, but it's like, I think Ferris Bueller said, sometimes you gotta stop, look around.
Yeah.
So, just to bring it back to the policy real quick, so 2 or 3 quick things. Number 1, so right now, what is the school committee's role in this? So, the school committee obviously is deciding on, voting on the weighted grades. And so that is something that is left to the school committee to determine, it seems like, but, the 1.0 versus 1.33 versus 1.67.
So the red are the only changes. So
No, I understand, but I'm trying to say the authority, I'm just trying to understand what the authority of the school committee is. And then my question is like, is the school committee the one that is having the graduation? Is that why the school committee has a policy on who the honors essayists are? I'm just wondering why we have a policy on it, and if we need a policy on it, and then if we do, to talk about the policy. So,
That's a great question.
I'm just trying to understand, like, are the honors essays, is that part of the school committee role?
To me, it's I mean, as I said, it's a carry-on effect of changing the percentile. So then the question is, would the policy just reflect the changes in percentile, and then we just be hands-off from there?
Well, that's the point. I mean,
Right.
we could, that's the first question, is like, do we need anything about the honors essays in a school committee policy or not?
Good point.
And I don't know if that's, maybe it's because the graduation is, the school committee hands out signs the diploma. I don't know, I'm not sure, but
No, I think there's a valid argument.
if it's not needed, we could eliminate the discussion and then leave that to a school-based policy on choosing the honors essayist anyways.
Yeah.
Because my concern is when we have authority, again, we've talked about this in many, many different ways, whether it was COVID protocols or whatever, but like, I'm a firm believer in trying to understand what your authority is, what your role is, and not just passing it off to somebody else either. I want to make sure if we have the authority that we're doing our job. And so.
Yeah, at some point, this was introduced. So
Okay.
I went back to 2006, which was the
Yeah.
first reading. The first reading, paragraph 1, without reading it, is the weighted GPAs.
Correct.
Paragraph 2 just says class rank is determined by the student's weighted grade point average and is announced to senior students on or about October 1st of the senior year. Following the student's graduation from high school, class rank will be recalculated, including the grades earned in the student's senior year of high school, and posted on the transcript for the class of 2010 and subsequent classes. The class rank will be released as a percentile rank. And then I would imagine that maybe sensing political pushback with some of the changes, we introduced some more delineated language into the program of studies, which this was probably in the program of studies. And when we wanted to change the program of studies, we proposed things through school committee policy.
It looks like in the 2009-10, both things came in together.
Yeah.
The honor essayist system, carried in this idea of percentile reporting.
But if it was essentially a way to say the top 3 students without saying the top 3 students, but now that it's going to be changed further into more of it's, the faculty are going to be the ones that are deciding it, I don't know if it belongs in a school committee policy at all, so.
It's less is more, I'm okay with that.
So my one.
Do you guys have a timing issue with this? Do we need to?
We do in terms of.
For the freshmen.
For the book.
Yeah, printing of the handbook, which is really a May, June thing. We've got time.
So what I wonder is if we should even just send a quick email to Liam, because he's, Liam McConnell, the attorney, just to say, like, what is the authority of the school committee in choosing essayists on there? Just making sure we understand what the role is.
I would say this goes, the language that we currently have probably goes over.
Yes.
More than we need to.
As does a few other policies that I share with the school, because
But-
the school committee's in charge of the budget and hiring me.
Correct. And so.
There's a few other things, but those are the major things. So these other pieces that are in there, though, it does document and it does show, some of the detail and some of the histories.
But I just worry if we speak on it and we take a role in it, I am a little bit more concerned about just giving it up without understanding what authority we're granting to people.
Yep.
And so I think the first question is whether we need to mention honor as essayist or not. And I don't know what people's thoughts are on that. I mean, Rich,
Well,
you have a comment on that?
I was just gonna say, rather than ask Liam about this, I think referring to like the MASC document.
We have a lot more detail than they do in a similar policy.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and Liam just represents other districts too, so he probably knows their policies too, but, so I guess as a committee, when looking at this policy, before we even do a motion and put it on the table, I mean, do we think we need to do that, or do you think we could just make the change about, we keep the first 2 paragraphs, and then we talk about how the grade point average is calculated and class rank is calculated, but then we essentially remove the honors essayist part.
I agree with that.
So strike paragraph 3 as it is stricken, and then we would also strike paragraph 4.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably send it back to the policy subcommittee just to think about it more and just bring it back. But then the alternative would, yeah. I mean, the alternative of that is, I think there needs to be until 2026 and after 2027.
Then you're gonna need more detail rather than less.
Correct, but, again, then I had concerns about the faculty panel and that. So like, I think if that's the easiest way to do that is just talk about just the weighted grades and just the part, because I think the school committee probably does have to weigh in on that.
Which is the primary goal, and then we see how it turns out from there. That's.
So we could certainly do a couple of versions too to discuss in the subcommittee and then bring forward. I don't know if we could bring forward multiple ones to discuss here.
You could, because we could just not vote on one or
Right.
vote on another one, and you could
Yeah.
pass different ones and say.
We've definitely passed them
ranked
based
choice for
on.
them.
We've approved them based on, approved with revisions.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, we
So-
can
So
do that.
Jeff's in favor, I mean, Rich, do you feel comfortable with that?
Yes, I think, I think your general point is fine, which is don't have a policy if you don't need a policy.
Yes. If it's not really left to us
If it-
anyways,
if it's
then why are
really
we?
up to-
yeah.
If it's really up to the district, then
Yeah.
leave it up to the district.
Diana, Noel, do you guys feel comfortable with that approach?
Yeah, I think we need the policy, I just think the essay piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again,
That's what
we're not saying the whole policy, just
Yeah.
that one part about, talking about honors essays at all.
And just, again, curiosity, if that piece is stricken, so where, does that end up in the student handbook, or like, it's printed somewhere,
It
it's
becomes
just
part of
not,
my handbook,
it's not the school.
rather
thing. Yeah, yeah.
than in your policy manual.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think some of, we can review and make sure. I think some of this like I said, the political piece. You don't want to make a change at the high school
Well,
that
it's-
the committee doesn't hear about, and then it gets appealed to
No.
me, gets appealed to you. You know, so.
I understand.
The old practice and procedure versus policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would
But I-
bring
yeah.
significant handbook changes to us anyway,
We would.
right?
Yeah.
So
I do, yeah.
it would
Yeah.
get to us.
And again, ultimately, the alternative has other implications that come to us, because then we're more involved in the choice and setting up
Then you need to be.
the choice than I think we necessarily want to be, or need to be, so.
And I would just say, just to tie back to what we were saying, or I was saying about the actual selection of the essays and concerns around that. I understand what you're saying, that happened with the essay a couple of years ago, and I think that's great, and I just,
Yeah.
just would want to make sure that kind of approach continues as opposed to a more heavy-handed approach.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
So I think what we say to Jeff is.
That's more of us.
Sorry.
My thought here is to actually combine this with the literature course and do this.
There you go.
Yeah. Right?
Okay, so I think that's a good discussion.
Should we have a motion to pass over? No, it's okay.
So I think we can just move past this, not vote on this right now, and the policy subcommittee will come back with revisions to the policy as discussed in the discussion tonight.
I don't know that Mr. LaPret.
No, I don't think Mr.
Rosa would
LaPret,
need
you
to be
need
here
to be here
for
again for
future.
us,
Yeah, no,
if you don't want.
No.
Keep me in the loop as needed.
I think we got the.
We know where I work.
We've got the discussion points. Okay. Thank you,
Listen,
Mr.
thank
LaPret,
you
for
so
everything
much. I'm
tonight.
so happy
Thank
to
you both, you guys.
present,
Okay.
I'm
And
so happy to have Mr. Rosa with me. Always.
Yeah, literally, I just see
But I,
arms coming out.
I was so happy to have an opportunity to have those, three groups present tonight. I
Yes.
know
They're great
each of them, in their own way, speak so much about what's happening. I think maybe some of them might be
Yeah.
more revealing it. But it's, it was a special night, so thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it shows
Are-
an incredible
are the-
well-roundedness that makes this discussion somehow a little different too.
Yeah, no,
Just,
thank you.
You know,
Are the unified sports schedules on the app? Are any sports schedules on the apps? On the app, the North Reading app or
aren't
not?
they on the
They should be on the
master
calendar.
calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one, obviously, the 28th. with
Yeah, yeah.
Bocce. And
wanna make
I
sure.
didn't, I am gonna leave with this, so you know I'm trying to cover as many bases as I can. We did test out the tape, we had to buy special tape to use on the gym floor.
Yeah.
We did a little demo in a section, and it is approved by the custodial staff.
Okay.
Because, believe me, you can't, put tape on the floor.
Put tape on the floor.
Tape on the
Yeah.
wall, tape on the floor. So, and I've actually had email exchanges with Channel 5, and they're gonna try to have somebody here to do a little story on Saturday too,
Great.
so.
Well deserved.
It's a lot to be excited about. And thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you,
Thanks for
Mr.
your
LaPret.
questions.
Mr. Rosa?
Mr. Rosa.
I just want to say one.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
And just to acknowledge that the care that you've put into student voice and students involved in the presentations, I mean,
Thank you.
they could have, and even without Mr. Owens, right? But each of the groups, the kids really, we heard their voice tonight.
Right.
You
That's
see what they're
fabulous.
doing in the classroom, and it's a great testament to the great work they're doing, so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I do want to give Mahir a best dressed award if
Yeah,
that's
no,
something I can do.
More about that later.
And take no offense if I'm not there Wednesday night and I have to ask you a question or two, but I'm trying to make it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, the calendar.
Yes. So this is a slightly different version than the first version that you may have seen. We take, through this process every year, we share it with the elementary principals, the middle school principal, high school principal, the directors. We run it by the NREA. I also run it by the paraprofessionals for feedback as well. So I incorporate in this version some of their feedback as well. So what you're seeing here is we always go back to when the calendar was this way a few years ago, what did we do and how did we line it up? I can change on the screen as well. So the,
Did you, it's
Was that-
slightly
that's the
different. Can I
calendar.
just peek?
yeah, I'm just gonna share here.
The one you said before, the other one we compared.
So
The one.
the main, the main items to keep in mind here with it's a very late Labor Day start with it's 1st of September start, being on a Friday. So we typically don't have staff back on the Friday before Labor Day. So we did not do a professional development day or anything before the school year. I think I shared with you also, we did a survey for staff about professional development days, when those occur, and I shared some of the data that we gathered from there. So really trying to incorporate a lot of their thoughts and ideas into this. We've traditionally had our release days on Fridays. There was some interest in trying on Wednesdays, so we incorporated a couple of Wednesdays, and we did a few other things. We tried doing a professional development day before the 2 conference days. And again, we did it, as we've done the last couple of years, after them. So we're gonna have some different information to look at the end of this year to see what worked well, and to try to incorporate some of the feedback that we've received from our staff and from our families as well. I didn't formally survey families. That is something that's forthcoming. We did ask them about conferences, and I received a lot of feedback about, professional development days and schedules over the years. So that's something that we would include and incorporate moving forward as well. So the major difference you see here from what was shared is that the October 6th day now is your full day. One thing that we tried to avoid was having multiple days off in the same week. As you know, we do not need to close our schools for election day. Many schools do. That's why when we tried to do the multi-district professional development, we always had to take election day. And it's bittersweet for me because I worked very hard collaboratively with about 20 districts to have a day on election day. It's not quite taking shape again after the pandemic in the same way. So because of that now, in its second year, not really taking shape, we let that go. What we are pursuing, Mr. Clean is working with Linfield to have some collaborative professional development, some shared PD on the 15th of March. So we're kind of excited about that multi-district opportunity with a neighboring district. So that's something we are working on there. Not sure if they've released their calendar yet, so I don't want to get too far ahead, but.
I don't think too many people are watching.
Yeah. But, so those are really the main pieces there. It does lead us to, with 5 snow days, a last day of June 25th, which is a bit late, but that's just, a lot of that has to do with the calendar. And we are not, as you know, contractually, we are not a district that the teachers would start before the 1st, and I think we've discussed previous years here about remaining, not starting the student day prior to Labor Day. So it does amount to a later day, but I think this preserves some of the things that we've talked about. So
does that mean the last day is the 18th or the 20th?
So the last day is the 25th, and if it was,
Snow days, though. So
Yeah.
you know.
it would be the 17th, I believe, if it was, if there were no snow days.
19th is a holiday.
So it does bounce it into the next, week.
Did you survey the teachers about my idea of getting rid of February and April breaks and making one in March and ending a week earlier?
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Why? I think that would be a better idea.
Yeah, that really works.
College.
I know.
It would definitely not work by ourselves. If the whole state did it, it might be a little easier, but it'd be hard.
There's some, I mean.
There are some districts that do that.
There are pros and cons there.
There are districts that do that.
I know I've
With that?
discussed that with
I'm
you.
with you. It would be great.
We got 2 votes for that.
Yep.
One more, come on. A week earlier.
I think if
amazing.
Dr. Daly wants to bring it to the committee, then I would seriously consider.
Bring it on.
We can discuss that through negotiations and whatnot,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of contracts that are tied to the 2 breaks, and
Yeah.
there's
It couldn't be
there's a
something.
lot of things.
It would not be something you do for next year. You would have to do it a couple years in
Yeah,
advance.
multiple
Well, I was
years.
thinking about that
But-
too, thinking ahead to the next time Labor Day jumps to so late in the month. It's like, if we want to think about changes on a year like that, this is the time to think about them, not March of going into that year.
My advice, I've said this informally, but if you come to the district on the 2 days before February break and look at the number of sicknesses and illnesses and all you would say, we need a break right now. Because it's amazing how just clearing out the buildings, not having everyone coming together, it brings some of that
Breaks up the flu
down.
season.
But it's always an idea we can discuss. But not only the teachers, but other contracts are tied specifically
Yeah.
to the number of vacation days being taken on those 2 breaks. And so, but we can definitely think about it, big picture, yeah.
Again, I've just heard some other districts have done it before too, and it just because it feels like we're always so late in June, and it's
Yeah.
one of those ones where, like, I don't know how other districts do it, but it seems like, obviously
start
other,
before Labor Day.
obviously other states, but no, but it seems like other districts, I don't know.
I think a lot of teachers like to be home at the same time.
I don't think Boston goes to school as many days as the rest of the districts.
Most districts are starting in mid to late August.
Yeah,
I am so grateful for the after Labor Day
Yes.
start. I will
Yes.
I mean, I could-
150% hold on to that.
I could get behind starting on the 1st, but like mid-August, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
No.
No way.
Horrible.
I agree. Okay, so with all that being said, is there any discussion on, I didn't see anything. On the last one, I asked a question to Dr. Daly. He told me basically read the calendar better, and I did. So and I found the mistake I had made. But
It's a bit nicer.
anybody have any questions on the calendar? Any issues? I have a motion to accept the. Are we ready to accept it now?
I believe we are. I did hear back from the NREA that they said that they accepted the change. The other thing is we balanced the trimesters a little bit
Okay.
differently to try to have them almost equally balanced, but if there is any kind of longer, it's towards the beginning. It just makes sense, a little more time at the beginning. So we did move the conferences a little bit later than typical. Those were some 11th hour kind of suggestions that we were able to bring into this draft. And so I think it'll give us some great information moving forward, so.
Okay, have a motion to accept the 2023-2024 school calendar.
Move to approve the 2023-2024 school year calendar.
Second?
We got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? And then we got reports on the North Shore Education Consortium and the SEAM Collaborative.
Sure, I shared those two documents
Yep.
with you. This is an annual function, just to share their annual reports. I know last meeting, I believe, or the meeting before, I was appointed to the boards again. This is the other annual report that I make, is just to share out their findings. They're both fantastic organizations. They're working really hard. We have a handful of students at NEC, and I believe only one student at the moment at SEAM.
correct.
And as I've shared, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but the collaboratives offer so many other opportunities in addition to just the programming for students. They offer other programs, they offer in-district supports, they offer collaborative job alikes, and so these are the annual reports that they've shared.
When I get on my soapbox a little later about the OSD 14% tuition hike, are these included in that, or is that outside of, is this not private?
It's outside.
This is outside of that?
Just-
Okay.
Correct.
just the
Yeah.
private
Okay.
placements.
So, I didn't know if these were considered private placements still. No.
Yeah, no, these are the alternatives to,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, anybody have any questions on either report? Okay, thank you. Routine matters. We're up to the minutes. You want to do the minutes for October 12th or December 12th?
I got it. I move to approve the open session of the school committee minutes for December 12th, 2022 as written.
Second?
You got a motion and a second. Anybody notice anything in it? I did not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Abstain.
And budget update.
I had to abstain from that one.
Oh, so, sorry, four in favor, one abstention.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Great, thank you. So believe it or not, we are kind of rolling through fiscal year '23, and we are now through the second quarter of the fiscal year, through the halfway point. And we continue to be in certainly good financial standing. I think certainly, as I've mentioned in the past, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but some of the measures that we took at the end, closing out fiscal year '22, which we've been fortunate to be able to do that for consecutive, years in a row here, to prepay special education tuitions above what we had budgeted, and take some other measures. We are in good financial standing, even though there are certainly unanticipated expenses that have come up on the maintenance side and some extraordinary areas to make some repairs from either HVAC or some elevators and so forth over the first 6 months that we've addressed. And we're certainly, things that we're watching on the special education side that have
come up as they've typically done that could certainly increase some of these, forecasted expenses over the next six months. But I think we are in a good position to address any unforeseen, and as we have already. And the food service program, which I've reported out on before in the past, has done a really good job over the first 6 months. Certainly the state supplementing the universal free meals program has continued to see strong participation in the lunch program, breakfast as well. And that account is doing very, very well.
Where do we think we're going to end? I know we ended at a very high number last year.
Yeah, it should be, we're thinking we'll be in probably greater than $50,000 profit, if not even more than that.
Well, that's a lot more than that, right?
We ended the year.
Were we up like 250?
With 250 as a year in balance.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
rolled
okay.
over.
Okay.
Previous by taking some measures. During COVID, we were able to shift a lot of expenses to some grants and some other areas, because that was kind of the challenge funding year. So we rolled over a high balance, but we ended with about 60 or so thousand as a profit. So we're in that same area. And
Just don't tell Mr. Gilberto, he'll try to charge us meals tax.
Right. Charles is planning on presenting at the next meeting to give kind of an update, talk about some of their highlights.
So should we not eat before the meeting?
They're willing to do some samples if you would like it. They were willing to do that. They wanted to get in right before the holidays, but there was too much going on. If you'd like that, I can ask for that.
I usually don't eat before, you can tell.
Coleslaw on the bean.
Right.
beans
So
and
things are certainly moving along. If you're following your emails, there's been, we're looking to have greater access to a regional dietitian and just greater educational awareness on different things with healthy eating and so forth, and healthy options. So that's been a good addition this year. So certainly we have seen the need for some leave of absences, which we anticipate. Nothing that I'm seeing to date is putting us outside our forecasted budget in terms of our long-term substitutes. But we'll certainly continue to monitor that and watch that as we move through the fiscal year.
Mike, on that one real quick, I saw in the job postings, and I don't look at them every time when I get them, but I noticed that you were looking for 3 building-based subs still. Is that higher than, did somebody take another position or stop doing it, or?
Yeah, so we had two that actually, one actually took another position, kind of a long-term position, and one here, and one actually resigned. And I think I even sent an email out looking for subs and building subs to the community as well. So yeah, we are in need of always looking to increase our daily on-sub call list, active directory, but we're in need for building subs at the high school and the Little elementary school right now. So hopefully we can get those positions filled. But yeah, so there's also a need for some van monitors, and we're looking for another van driver as well.
Any impact of the, very topic, any impact of the recent increase in COVID for any of this stuff? Have you noticed more absences?
We haven't seen that. There was a little bit of we saw that a little bit before the holidays. Coming back, I haven't seen anything last week that was alarming. Our fill rates tend to be, we're still at around 70% to 75% on average. Where we've had a challenge is on a day like maybe on a Friday before a weekend or something where there just happens to be either something going on or an illness or a breakout, where there happens to be just more sort of call-outs than typical, like last-minute call-outs, like morning of, where positions are proactively, then we've seen our fill rates drop to like 40%. And that's kind of the challenge.
40% of the absence.
Of the absences, correct.
Fridays not before weekends are better, though.
I'm just smiling because I don't want to, it's the knock on wood thing, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't heard from the principals yet some concerns around this. I've heard some COVID, some flu. We certainly
Yeah.
had absence of staff and students, but nowhere
Yeah.
close to where we were this time
Eighth grade
last year.
dance might not have been a good thing.
So
Yeah.
it is something that's out there that we're keeping an eye on, but.
Yeah, we're definitely, I'm in the process of doing because I might hear from you later, just a study on our rates, our substitute rates, both from a building sub perspective and the daily rate. So we always want to remain competitive, and so, we may have kind of dipped kind of below average on that, so we're looking at that. We want to remain competitive and make sure, we're staying at least in the medium range, if not slightly above that, to continue to attract quality
I would think that'd be a
substitutes.
liquid market, that the prices would change quickly.
Right,
as-
and we've seen that, yep.
Okay.
Seen that.
In the last
Can
2
you-
years,
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, it's,
Can you do that? I mean, the nice thing about the building-based subs is you can give them something more. You can give them some consistency. They know where they're going each day.
Yeah.
There's some reliability in it. Can you, and those are only, I know they're only 4-day-a-week jobs?
They're 4-day-a-week jobs.
Okay. And
right.
then the fifth day, we just hope no one's sick, but.
So, well, I think what happens is ideally there's 2 per building. So
Okay.
usually it's split, so there's always at least 1 building sub coming in.
Okay.
I've definitely let the principals know during periods of high absences, then they can employ, as long as it's not a consistent basis, they can request
Okay.
their building subs come in 5 days a week for a week or 2 period. And that's happened, and they know that that's an option that's
Yeah,
available to
it's
them.
financial.
Yeah, I've benefited
Yeah.
positions and everything else. But the other question is, can you do benefits for, not full benefits, but like either for daily subs or even for our building-based subs, but like something where like, if you are a daily sub in our district for at least 30 days in a year, we give you an additional bonus or something. Like, is there anything like that where just to get some consistency where, maybe even if the daily rate doesn't go up, but if there's certain people that continually choose them, that we can say, well, maybe you can't give them a higher rate than somebody else, but you could give them a bonus after they've done 30 days
Sure.
within.
Believe it or not, we actually had something similar to that in place.
The rate would go up, right?
The rate would go up. So once you worked, I believe it might have been 15 days in the district.
Yeah.
Your rate, at the time, the rates were lower, but your rate might have gone from 60 to 70.
Yeah.
And then when we made the adjustment, the last time we adjusted was about 2 years ago. We dipped below, we increased it to 90, and we just kind of made it a blanket flat rate. But that's something we can look at. and,
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just
there's
to
different
encourage
things we
people
can do
to
there.
choose us, like, and whether it's a one-time just payment for, if you've done
Yeah.
20 days, you
Absolutely.
get something, or
Yep.
higher daily rate after a certain number of days, because,
Yeah, it's a
Having
good
the same
point.
face over and
I
over
think
is helpful.
we can definitely look at that.
There's a few districts that are differentiated based on if you have a licensure, if you don't. So we've been talking about some of those ideas. I think, yeah, anything is good. I think the staffing shortage overall that we haven't really sensed, I think we are seeing it in the substitutes, and that's, when I talk to others, it's just across the board, we're seeing that, so. But anything, those are all good ideas.
Yeah, great ideas.
you bought lots of
We're
Mega
looking at
Million
that.
tickets for the budget.
We're, we are doing a study on how districts in the area comparable as geographically are paying their subs, and so we're looking at that. Budget subcommittee might hear an update on that.
Yeah. So the other way to balance the budget is Mega Millions, right? Will that work?
Buy 100,
Let's just buy a
buy
bunch.
100 million tickets, and you'll have a payout that'll help.
Put it
the
all in
budget.
there.
It's certainly planned.
Okay. Staff,
Yeah.
or sorry,
He always
did
has one
we cut
second
you off, you done?
and
Okay.
one not
Thank you,
second
Michael.
question.
I did look through it. Dr. Daly, you want to talk about staffing? I saw the list of.
You all set, Michael?
Yes. Yep.
Great. Just wanted to highlight a few of our hires here that we start with. First is Diane Tebow, who is a payroll specialist, started with us just a few weeks ago. She's had a nice overlap with Mr. Stephen Hardery, who's been here for 29 years, will be retiring. So I've asked Stephen to come to our next meeting to be recognized on the 23rd. He has, he's retiring very soon thereafter, so he's a North Reading guy, and I think it'll be great to do. We've also hired Beth Steele, who you may remember from, she was a huge asset to us last year with all of our COVID testing. She is filling in as the floater nurse. And we have a few other positions here that are listed as well. Julianne Kroner is a long-term substitute elementary team chair. She's been in that role, and she's continuing in that role for point two as someone else comes back for the other 4 days a week. Andrew Scarpa is a long-term special ed paraprofessional. Amy Fleming is the academic interventionist. Lavanya is, in Lavanya we hired right as the school year started. She's a special ed para at the Hood. And Kathleen Walsh Rizzo is a building substitute at the Hood. The middle school, Katie Lombardi, who was our floater nurse for the past 2 years, is the long-term school nurse at the middle school. We had a retirement at the middle school, Miss Penny Kulikowski. Melissa Grew, extracurricular activities paraprofessional, and Carolyn Watts, a building substitute. In the high school, we have a long-term sub for physical education, Arif Taruz, and Devin Dyer as a building substitute. So I just wanted to share that with everyone here. And I think we are gift acceptance memos.
Okay.
All right. I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from the North Reading Hornet Hall of Fame to benefit the physical education department at the 3 elementary schools and middle school as follows. Middle school, $300. Hood School, $200. Batchelder School, $200. And middle school, $300. These funds are from the Turkey Trot Road Race. I assume the little school won the competition.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, why does the little school get an extra $100?
Winning.
Oh, they won the turkey trot again, okay.
I think it's, how many years? 13 years in a row?
Yeah, I think he said he is gonna do it differently next year.
Yeah.
This might be the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes.
Sometimes, at some point, you have to retire. a program.
Yeah.
Well, again, we have to spread it out, right? Diana was mentioning, even in academics, or in athletics.
There's been that incentive, highly competitive among our schools, and the little school, it's whoever turns out the most.
Biggest percentage.
Yep.
Just do the top 5.
So
no,
that,
yeah.
so we
Top
have a motion.
percentile.
Just need a second.
Okay, we have a motion? Second?
Second.
Second by Noel. Any discussion other than that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from parent Haibo Shang to be used for the middle school. Nice, thank you.
Second.
You have a second?
Sorry, I should have done
Oh,
that.
good. We can mess with Cindy,
Yep.
which is
This
not
might be
here.
like the 3rd year in a row this family has done this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's very generous.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
We're not done yet.
I move the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $1,000 from parent Haibu Shang to be used for the high school.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Is that it?
That's it.
Actually, one random question. I know the Hood School is going to be trying to build a new playground now, too. I was there when the little school did it. Do you know, is there any fundraising underway for that yet? Do you know?
I don't believe it started yet, this conversation.
Yeah, I was part of a conference call with a group that's working on it. They're just getting underway.
Okay.
We kind of talked and we sort of do it, similar, the idea would be to do it similar as the little school.
Okay.
But,
I was just curious
Yeah.
if that was happening yet. I had heard something about it, so, good. Subcommittee updates, finance planning team, met on January 6th.
Yeah, so we went over how receipts are looking currently, and it's funny, there was no conclusions reached, but I didn't consider any of that particularly good news, any of the stuff that we were going over. It was, I don't think we're gonna have a year where we have a lot of extra funds to spend.
No, I think that the challenge is revenues are gonna be down and expenses are gonna be up, is essentially what it came down to,
Yep.
which is, new growth, for example, and we talked about this a little bit in the sewer project, where, every year expenses go up more than revenues, and so one way to offset that is if you have new growth. And the problem is new growth, last year, I think we had budgeted over $1 million, and this year we're gonna be stretched to budget 700,000, so that's
Yeah,
300,000
unfortunately,
right
the
there.
Pulte project is slowing down quite a bit.
Yeah, it was on hold for a
yeah,
while.
basically on hold, so that's
And so,
hurting quite a bit.
yeah, so a building that was going to be constructed, but again, this is, you have to keep growing to get it. And then there's some specific things that'll be higher, and one of them, which I alluded to earlier, was, and Dr. Daly's written to our representatives, and we should probably do that too. Maybe our legislative rep can organize us in this, but basically the OSD, which Office of something develop, was it Special Development or no? Do you know what OSD stands for?
I believe it's just the operational services division.
Okay,
Our
operations.
division.
Yeah, I did, it is, I looked at that, like, they oversee the private tuitions, and typically, they allow what can be increased each year, and typically they allow 2 to 2.5%, and they're potentially gonna allow 14% this year, which is essentially $300,000 to $350,000 in North Reading, which I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you allow 2.5% consistently and then 1 year just hit them with 14%, everybody with 14%, but it would be essentially a $350,000 increase in 1 year, and then the circuit breaker's a year behind, so
Correct.
even though the circuit breaker would maybe take a little bit of that away, that goes away. And then actually, so that's the finance planning team, I think, and then we talked a little bit about, we did talk a little bit about the sewer project and some advantages. Apparently, we have won a $1.5 million grant for something, for the
Some
design.
That it's already been approved, but yeah,
Yes.
that part of the design, yeah.
And then another $250,000 or $350,000 grant as well, and we're gonna be allowed access into an interest rate, reduced interest rates, which is probably gonna be at most 2.4% for a large portion of the project. So they're trying to redesign it where it maybe won't hit the betterments as much, or maybe at all.
Yeah.
And then,
We probably shouldn't talk too much about it,
Yeah.
but.
But again-
Until they discuss it and.
yes,
in-
I
in-
think they were talking
in
tonight
the,
about it, but they just talked about it at the select board. You're not following along?
I don't,
just
yeah, I'm
kidding.
not sure, I just wasn't sure
No,
what the
I know, I know.
schedule was, yeah. If we
But-
talked about it Monday, that's,
Yeah.
last Monday, that's.
Yeah, and then, but my only question for you, Mike, is, I did see something from the MASC website on the circuit breaker. There's, some people are, MASC, I think, is pushing for the circuit breaker contribution to be pushed up to 90% of everything over 3 times. It's currently 75% over 4 times.
Correct.
Yeah, so, I don't know if there's any, is there any, like, weight behind that or any movement behind that, do you know, or not?
So I have not heard that
No, I saw that.
on my end. Interesting. So
There was
I-
a listserv, and
Yeah.
the MASC sent something to the governor-elect, I believe it was.
Yeah, with,
Okay.
with the superintendents and the 2 teachers unions.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was, arguing, or pushing for the circuit breaker to be changed to 90% above 3 times, as opposed to 75% above 4 times, so.
Okay. Wow, that would be.
Which could be a good amount of money then.
Yeah, that would be a good amount of money.
Yeah.
So on a related note, do we know what, do we remember, do you have at the tip of your tongue, how much is in the special education revolving account,
Yeah.
stabilization fund?
So it's a good, I was thinking of, I think it is $150,000.
So I think we should make sure that we discuss a significant contribution to that this year coming
Yeah.
up.
Yes.
Because I don't
Yep.
think we did one last year.
We did not get that.
You talked about it, and Scott brought it up, and
Yeah.
others.
We ever got it in initially. So, yes.
Yep. No, I
Yeah,
agree.
And we haven't had to touch that, but
But if it's gonna
it's a
be a
great-
14%
great
increase, we might need to, on
Yeah,
a.
Yeah.
And that's not
I think-
set,
yeah.
that's, so
Right.
but great point. Yep.
I mean, in general, we should be
Yeah.
doing a little bit every
We
year,
should
but
be.
this might,
Those costs reflect, the, everything, it's just a ripple effect, right? So the workforce and the cost of living adjustments for the private institutions is also going up, which is why they're arguing for the 14, but it's, how do we pay for that, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Policy Subcommittee met. We saw the product of that.
Thrown back at us.
Thrown back, yes. I mean, I don't know what to talk about.
There was a nice welcome from Dr. Daly, because Jeff and I are new, so we're really excited. And it looks like a few things to be added to, potentially discussed, like a few needs that might come up to add. Some, like, on the comfort animals, on
For animals, yep.
the security cameras,
And-
more language there.
And we've talked a lot about the updated language to some of the financials and budget. Some of those were rewritten in the early fall, but some laws have changed more recently, so we're gonna wait a little bit longer on some of those updates. we could do them. Michael
Right.
kind of looked them over and he said, if we just change these numbers, it could work, but we're gonna give it a little bit more time to see whether MASC sort of updates, once again. But we had some items there to discuss, so. And we have some homework from tonight, so we can,
Okay.
we haven't set another meeting date, but we will set one soon.
Yeah, don't let the administration push you around. Policy subcommittee, I'm just kidding. Finance planning team meets on February 3rd at 8:15 a.m. Athletic subcommittee meets January 18th at noon. Fine arts subcommittee meets same day at 3:15 p.m.
CIPC has another meeting tomorrow morning.
Yes, yep, 8 a.m. Wow.
Should I put those in? At one point, I did, and then we didn't do them, so should we put the CIPC in there? It is a subcommittee.
The schools did present at the last
Yeah.
session.
Yeah. How was it received? I mean, compared to years past, same as always,
Yeah.
or, I mean,
I thought it well.
Thing gets done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Hard to say.
So,
They appreciated the presentation. It was,
Yeah,
Mr.
they felt
Connolly
like
and,
they got the information
Mr.
needed.
Campagna and Dr. Downs did a great job.
Okay,
We were the first stop, we were the first ones.
yeah. So they forget about us, so they forget about us
Yeah.
at the end?
it's sort of good and bad.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like
Yeah,
whenever you're voting for anything.
There's clearly a psychological element of like,
We have been first a lot, usually we're the only ones ready, but.
Yeah.
Well, there is something to be said for showing up and being ready and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having your ducks in a row and.
Go first, and then
yada, yada.
3 months from now, when you vote on it.
We usually end up presenting it again a little
Yeah.
bit. I
That's what
usually
you
end up
do.
doing it, yeah. But,
It's like the gift exchange. Whoever gets number one can get the last one at the end, too, so. Administrative report, Dr. Daly?
I just have a few items here. Just want to share the K-12 Action Committee met on December 13th. We talked about some of the recent incidents at the high school. We had updates from all of our health, wellness, bullying prevention and intervention, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. There's a lot of good discussion there. We have some upcoming meetings on February 7th at 6:30 PM and then May 16th at 3:15 PM. That's for the large group. And then some of the subgroups are meeting in between that time.
Dr. Daly, can I?
Yes, please.
Is there a date for the DEIB meeting, next one?
There is, I would have to double check that. It's coming up fairly soon, though. I will, Mr. Clean will send that out, maybe very soon, yeah. Changes to the recent procurement regulations, that's what I just was speaking to. We are going to follow, there is a school committee policy that allows us to, I need to update the committee on changes, but we can follow the procedures even if the policy doesn't quite govern it. So obviously, we're going to follow some of the allowances are higher, and it does take into account some long-term purchasing for multi-year subscriptions, things like that. So we're able to incorporate that, but we will update the policy language.
And the
As-
procurement, that's just talking about like, and then they're just like different levels now and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're.
It went up a few years ago from, it went up to 50, and now
Yeah.
it's
But
going
now
to
it's
100.
splitting into different, because one level, you just have to,
Get bids or.
you just have to look at 3 different websites and you're fine, and then the other
One's
one you have to
3
give
quotes,
bids.
Sound business practice, 3 quotes, and then formal bidding, so. What was once 25,000 for years became 50 before your formal bidding, advertising, sealed bids, now that threshold's 100,000.
So it does change some of our bidding requirements. So we would follow the new regulations. We are waiting for some of the DESI regulations. Similar to, I updated on the discipline regulations last time in a similar way. The International Travel Club, I didn't go through the process of having them come back. We approved the trip. There was a travel advisory with Peru, so a trip was approved for Peru. They have redrafted their itinerary now to go to Germany, Italy, and Switzerland. And so I did attach the updated itinerary for you to consider. I don't know whether it requires us to revote. If you'd like to, we could. If you need them to come back at all, we could. But Mr. LaPret and I discussed it. We definitely agree and support changing this at this time just due to what's happening in Peru.
I would suggest that we put it on the agenda. They don't have to come back, but just
I
put it
agree.
on the agenda.
To
for a vote.
do an actual.
Yeah, I agree we
that's-
should do the review.
Yep. And in the meantime, though, they're okay, just because of deadlines and timelines with the changes. Okay, great.
It's a bummer. That was a great trip. I mean, this
Yep.
would be fantastic too, but
Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
And I just wanted to share, too, that we've received 2 grants very recently, and there's a few others we've applied for. But we did have a $16,000 grant for financial literacy. If you recall, we did some work last year to design units. This grant, which I'll be sharing out with the staff tomorrow or very soon, will bring teachers together to unpack those units that were developed last year and talk about how to implement these in the classroom. It might look a little different at the different levels. At the elementary school, it certainly fits into our math curriculum, and it fits into our some of our social studies. In middle school and high school, it's trying to find those right places to do it, possibly in a freshman seminar, possibly having a day where we do a fair, where we come together and do some activities. We also looked at the health classes to fit in some financial literacy. I think we all value it. It's a part of NRPS 2025. It's something we think we certainly want to see. It's trying to find that place for it in the curriculum. But the teachers last year did a great job designing the units, and now we're excited to take that next step with it. So this is great. And then the other one is for teacher diversification. We're most likely going to be focusing on paraprofessionals who are looking to get licensed or looking to become teachers. Some of the grant allows us to budget and to advertise, and we're able to put some incentives in to increase some of our hiring pools. So this is really meant to address a lack of diversity in North Reading. We are going to focus on sort of racial diversity at this time. So to put some advertisements out there to offer some incentives for relocation, for paying off some loans, or for some work towards coursework in the future as incentives for some applicants. So it does need to be spent by the end of the year, but we're thinking about maybe structuring this to have some incentive for the jobs we're posting this spring. Sort of an informal agreement among those that are hired is that they commit to the district for a number of years. Obviously, there's things on both sides that, we need to commit to them annually, and they need to, we can't hold them to that, but it's sort of an informal agreement that, you're not just going to take this money and leave after a few months. It's a commitment, but it's a nice incentive, and we are looking at some future opportunities for grants to try to extend this. So I did meet with the teachers and the paras union to talk about what this would look like, as sort of a one-time discussion of, with the grant funds. But really, do we believe in this as a model? If we are looking to attract different candidates to come into our pool, then we might have to do something to get it started.
So, and just to be clear, so both of these are for the current year.
Mhm.
Both of them are one-time. And you mentioned the second one might be renewable, the sort of first one?
So both of these grants are one-time, is my understanding. There may be something next year that we could apply for, but the other grant that I'm looking at is related more to Student Opportunity Act, and one of the elements we can apply for can be multiple years, and so this is one area of equity that we can address through that. I'm also going to look at anything that we could qualify for there. It's sort of, when you look at some of these grants, we don't meet the first 3 because of our achievement level, our poverty level, this and that, but we're on the lower end of what we receive through the Student Opportunity Act. So there was always this opportunity to do some matching grants or some money. So I'm going to write it in such a way to have that ability to meet under that criteria. So I'm optimistic, and we've been fortunate to receive these 2 grants. There's another one for the arts that I applied for that I've got my fingers crossed. I know Mr. Colleen is looking at some as well. It seems like we've been the recipient of some of these grants, which is great. So.
Can I just,
Sure.
I brought this up before, and I don't know what the right answer is, but the MASC's interpretation of mass laws is that we should be approving grants, similar to the way we do for donations. I think it's a technicality, but it's something we should probably
Yeah.
consider doing on a more formal basis. You always let us know about them, so it's not like we're ignorant of them, but we probably should be voting to approve them.
So putting them on the agenda as items to approve.
Yeah, and the only other part of it is to understand what the conditions are, so that we're not agreeing to something that we wouldn't necessarily want.
And would you do it when you get approved for it, or would you do it when the funds come in?
I'm totally fine personally doing it whenever it makes sense for
Yeah.
us, right?
So do we think it's an agenda item, or is it more the way we approve the bids and donations, that it's sort
I
of?
think it could be as like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
You could
So-
change it to
I
bids,
read the same
donations,
thing.
and grants
Right.
on the agenda.
Yeah.
And then
Maybe that's
anything
how,
that comes
maybe
in.
that's how we can do it.
Yep.
And then I can include them again in the next time
Yeah.
as an update. Great. That was all that I had for the administrative report at this time.
Okay, any correspondence?
None at this time.
Okay, future business?
And then did them all get.
Well, I forwarded.
Yeah.
Future business, we have NRPS 2025 updates at the January 23rd meeting at 6:30. February 13th, we have a goals update at 6:30 here. February 27th, we have the digital learning update. And are we having other school presentations at any of these meetings or not?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, those are coming up after that.
Okay.
So these are all located here, I believe.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I need a second. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.